Good evening and welcome, and thank you everyone in the audience for being here tonight. I'll call this meeting Montgomery County School Board to order at 7:02 on February 5th, 2019. Please stand for Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, our student school board rep, and he's now sitting with us at the dais, welcome, will read our mission, vision statements, and our core values.
We would like to welcome all of our guests to our school board meeting tonight. Here in Montgomery County Schools, our mission is that every student will graduate career and college ready and become a productive, responsible citizen. Our vision is to inspire learning by providing a nurturing environment, positive relationships, high expectations, and continuous growth. Here in Montgomery County Schools, our values for everyone include physical safety and emotional well-being, mutual trust and respect, open communication, accountability, engagement in lifelong learning, and cultural diversity. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Time. Next item will be adopting our agenda. May I have a motion to adopt our agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Now we have an agenda. Next item will be Dr. Meyer's announcements.
All right,
Dr.
thank
Meyer.
you. Yes. First, February is School Board Appreciation Month, and we'd like to thank you for your dedication and service to excellence in education here in Montgomery County, and all the commitments that you have made to our schools and to our students. We place certificates from VSBA at your place. Ms. Drake emailed you with the opportunity to order your gift. We want to allow you to choose a gift that works best for you this year. And so, a reminder, we'll have a minority employee social on February 28th at Avellino's in Blacksburg from 5 to 7. Please let Ms. Drake know if you plan to attend so that we can include you in our head count. Okay, so that's February 28th, Avellino's, minority employee social. A lot's been happening the last 3 weeks since our last meeting. I've started faculty meetings with all of our schools, and they've been going very well. We've been discussing and reviewing the school board goals, the school budget, redistricting, and then our focus on the future. Ms. Karan and Ms. Graham and I attended the Capitol Conference in Richmond a couple of weeks ago, and we met one-on-one with Senator Edwards, Delegate Rush, Delegate Hurst, and Delegate McNamara. And so we really appreciate them giving us their time to sit down and discuss our schools and our needs and things that we're advocating for, and also some things that are being proposed that we're pushing back against. And they're always willing to listen, and sometimes we get the vote we want, sometimes we don't. So that's okay too. See, I was able to attend a reception at Squires at Virginia Tech a couple of Fridays ago, and Christiansburg Elementary School art was displayed there. And so we have a lot of CES folks here tonight, and so that was really nice. 2 weekends ago, we had dialogue on race at Christiansburg Middle School. It's always a positive experience when we can sit down to talk about how we can better serve our minority community in our schools and in our community. So that was a really good day at Christiansburg Middle School. Last week, attended the Battle of the Bergs, both girls and boys basketball. And Christiansburg won both games. Ironically, they played again last night for the first round of the district, and Christiansburg won both games again. So Christiansburg advanced and beat Blacksburg. And I hear some people that want to cheer. That's okay. So we have a split board also. So that's okay. All right. Last week, our team was busy with weather-related decisions. The first call was not to have school last Tuesday due to forecasts showing us that if we brought students into school, then we would have a difficult time getting them home on the buses. And so, well, the forecast was incorrect. But we felt we did what was best and safest. It was sort of hit and miss. The temperature could have dropped. It did snow, and the temperature could have dropped a couple of degrees, and it would have been a mess. And so I still think we made the right decision, and appreciate our team and help with that. And then on Thursday, we need to make a decision as to if we need to close, delay, or go as scheduled due to the drop in temperatures. And let's say it's 60 degrees difference between last week at this time, all right? We had a scheduled early release that day, but that had no influence on our decision. As always, we make our decisions using data and not emotions, and the emotions were high last week around this situation. And something else that we don't do is we don't call other school divisions and say, what are you doing? We make our own decisions based on data, and it's a great science lesson as well. We always speak to VDOT and the National Weather Service, and we do not, we look at national weather sources and reliable weather sources. Not saying that local sources are not reliable, but I know a local weatherman who tweeted out that in 5 minutes you would get frostbitten here, which was totally untrue. It's not scientifically true that that would actually happen here. The forecast changed too, though, as compared to previous days. The big change was in the wind being much calmer than expected, which affected the wind chill factor. What we were told is that it would not get below zero, therefore the cold was not a danger to our students and frostbite was nearly impossible. However, it was uncomfortably cold. There's no doubt about that. It was cold. But with the help of our technicians and bus drivers, it all worked out great. Our technicians, mechanics, came in 2 hours early that day, and they started every bus in the school division. And they got them warmed up. In fact, the bus driver at my kid's stop, and I stood outside with them as well. I was colder than any of them. In fact, some of them kids didn't wear jackets. And they didn't care. And so, but the driver pulls up and was complimenting the technicians. And so this is the first time I've gotten on a bus that was already warm. And so the bus drivers were warm when they got to work on their buses. So we appreciate the mechanics and technicians and working so hard. And Mr. Krantz and Mr. Walter's team, they just do a great job at keeping our kids safe, and their entire team did a wonderful job. And so now, of course, the common question now is, when are we going to get out of school? All right? That's a very common question. We've currently missed 8 days, which makes our last day June 4th. If we miss another day, the last day will be June 5th. Beyond that, we would start opting to count hours. The Department of Education allows us to either go 180 days or 990 hours. Okay? And so by counting hours, we'll have several additional days that we could miss and still get out on June 5th. All right? So technically, we think, don't quote me on this, we're going to recalculate it again the next couple of days. We could actually miss up to 8 more days and still get out June 5th. Okay? That's a lot of excitement to miss 8 more days.
Let's don't push it.
But that was teachers and students. Parents are like, no. Yeah. And so, so hopefully we're in school learning and do not have to miss any more days. And we can just move right through this. But that's the way it's looking as of right now. So.
Thank
All right?
you. Mm-hmm. Our next item, or the section of the meeting, will be honors, awards, and recognitions. I think first we'll be hearing from our student board rep, Ty. Go for it.
I prepared this time.
That's great.
So at CHS, this week is Counselor Appreciation Week. And then during our Thankful Thursday, which is every week, but this week specifically, students are writing thank you notes to counselors. And then on Friday, they're actually, well, that's a surprise for the counselors, so I probably shouldn't say that.
We can't share.
And then also for Black History Month, our school is doing, through social media, I think through Twitter, every day they're putting up either a This Day in History, as in something historical in the African American community, or a quotation from a historical African American figure. They're also, before school, they're playing music in the halls that was composed by a black musician. And then also there are posters in the school that give just a brief paragraph summary of kind of like a biography of famous African Americans. And then, as you said, the boys and girls basketball teams played Blacksburg, and twice. They beat them twice. First round of the
I see the
district
twice going underlined.
and then the region tournaments for wrestling, swim and dive, and track are all happening within this week. Swim and dive was yesterday and today, and then wrestling is this weekend. I'm not entirely sure on when the indoor track one is. And then also for National Career and Technical Education Month, the CHSFBLA team, club is holding a teacher tea next Friday. And that's it.
That's wonderful.
Very good. Excellent.
Yeah, a lot of great things happening. Thank you for sharing.
And all of our schools actually are participating in African American History Month and
That's
their
great.
activities in all schools this month. So we're excited
Yeah.
about that.
That's great. Thank you. Next item will be, I think, our school presentation from Christiansburg Primary.
Yes, Mr. Lewis is here to introduce the team from Christiansburg Primary. If you all would come on up.
You guys stand right here, and I'll call you up when I'm ready for you. You stand right there. I'll call you when I'm ready for you. Chairperson Kieran, school board members, Dr. Myers, thank you for this opportunity to showcase the great opportunities that we make available for students and for families every day at CPS. Before my student representatives come to speak, I would like to highlight our Family Engagement Committee and our CPS Backpack Program. Our Family Engagement Committee has grown over the last several years and has successfully sponsored school-wide family-focused events, such as our Curriculum Night, our One School, One Book, and our Mystery Night. Last year, we partnered with Derek Lancaster Racing, and we were fortunate that he brought his car with us, and we scheduled a family engagement night around literacy and around his race car. It was very well attended. Our CPS Back program, we're fortunate that local churches and our area businesses in the community are very generously funding this program for Christiansburg Primary School and Christiansburg Elementary School students. The program was initiated in 2010 to help parents stretch their food budget by providing backpacks filled with food for consumption over the weekend. We try to help with offsetting food costs for families by providing 2 breakfasts, 2 lunches, 2 dinners, 2 snacks, a milk or juice in each weekly pack. The backpacks are sent home each Friday with the students that participate in the program. We currently have 128 students participating. We send home 512 bags per month at an average cost of $1,500 a month, supported by our Christiansburg school community. September through January, the program has provided a total of 13,824 meals, 4,608 snacks, and 2,304 juice boxes. Before the video, I have some student representatives that wanted to just talk about CPS. Our first kindergarten representative will be Miss Jillian Landers.
Hi,
Hi, Jillian.
my name is Jillian, and I like school, and I like my friends, and I like Mrs. Cottle and Miss Lewis. And my favorite thing about school is everything. I like to speak to you tonight. Thank you.
You are very
Good
welcome.
job, T-Girl. You go back to your mom and dad. Good job. Our first grade representative is not here with us tonight, but our second grade rep, Mr. Drayvon Samuels, will come this time.
Hello,
Hi, Trevon.
my name is Drayvon, and I'm in second grade, and the favorite thing I like about second grade is math, science, recess, and lunch. And the things I learned is facts, writing, and Thurgood Marshall and Martin Luther King Jr.
Wonderful.
Good.
Wonderful. Thank you.
At this time, I'd also like for the Christiansburg Primary School faculty and staff to stand, as well as families represented for CPS. If you please stand at this time. You may be seated. I'd also like to recognize my partner in success, Miss Morgan, who is here supporting us as well. After our video presentation, second grader Corbin Breedenkamp will close us out and talk about life lessons he has learned at CPS. Thank you. I'm just going to step over here to the side. We're going to step over to the side because I'm going to show the video.
Hi, we are the Christiansburg Primary School PBIS team, and our mission is for the community, parents, and school to work together to create a nurturing and positive environment that encourages and values respect for everyone.
This year, as a committee, one of our goals was to reach out to community members. In the fall, we reached out and shared hot dogs and books with our community members.
We have started a program this year to increase parent involvement by bringing the school to the parent. On a monthly basis, families are randomly selected to receive a goodie basket, which includes snacks and fun family activities. Staff deliver the baskets, and they have been warmly received.
To create a positive environment here at school, we have done several school-wide quarterly events, including a winter dance, movies and popcorn, and creating cards to give out to members of the community, including law enforcement officers and emergency responders.
Here at Christiansburg Primary School, where we love learning.
Go Coyote Pups!
A positive attitude means that to listen and use respect to your teachers and your friends and listen to what your teachers say.
Being respectful is listening to when other people talk and being kind to your teacher and being nice to other people.
Being responsible means to take care of others, look out for them, and be nice to each other. Treat people how you want to be treated, and don't lose things that you just got, and try not to hurt other people and be nice.
Being responsible is like I keep up with my tablet every day. I never lose it.
Yep, that's a good one.
Staying safe at school means that you have to not rock in your chair and look where you're going.
What I love about CPS is that there's a bunch of nice teachers and everyone's nice, and that there's a bunch of different people and people like to meet you, and I think it's really fun to be at this school. I like CPS because my teacher's nice to me, and I like snack and lunch.
My favorite part of CPS is I like my teacher and my friends.
My favorite thing about CPS is library, recess, math, science, social studies, and lunch.
Also want to thank our videographer, Ms. Catherine Breeze, our ITRT teacher, and I'm calling Mr. Corbin my closer. So go ahead, Corbin.
At CPS, we have great staff, teachers. Every teacher has their own personality. Some can be funny, some can be happy, some can be nice, and some can be pretty strict. But they all have their own personality. At CPS, we have, well, all our specialties are fun. Like in art, we can draw a lot of pictures. One of my favorite art projects that I've done was the first grade Statue of Liberty painting. And in PE, we've had a lot of fun games, tag, like alien tag, and tag, freeze tag, bug tag, a lot of, and sometimes dodgeball, certain fun games that can kind of like help us get our energy out from being inside the classroom for a little while. And here at CPS, some of the life takeaway lessons are I've learned how to control my talking, control my interrupting, and learned how to control some things that I knew how to control kind of, but it was very hard for me.
Yeah, that's good to know.
And thank you for letting me do this presentation.
Excellent.
Thank you.
That is our presentation for tonight. Thank you for allowing me to be the principal at Christiansburg Primary School for the last 13 years. It's been my honor and my privilege. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lewis, and thank you, Coyotes. I wish I can have that courage to speak in front of the public like you do. That's wonderful. Everybody did such a great job. It's not easy to speak, in front of the microphone, all right? Intimidating, at least I think so.
All right, excellent job. Dr. Graham, if you'll come up to help us continue with our awards and recognitions program.
I have to say that was delightful. Thank you, Christiansburg Primary. At this time, we will have honors, awards, and recognitions, and we will switch from the primary level to our Seniors of the Month. If Mr. Pauly would come up and explain the Seniors of the Month program.
Thank you, Dr. Graham, Dr. Meyer, Ms. Karan, members of the board. A very special highlight of our board meeting is the recognition of a Senior of the Month from each of our 4 high schools. Photos and leadership profiles are displayed on the presentation board in the lobby, and our presentation format provides a snapshot of each senior and a quote from their administrator or teacher who nominated them for this recognition. Tonight, the principals will be presenting at least 2, and in some cases, 3 seniors of the month. We're playing a little catch-up, so we have some January, February, and maybe even back to December in some cases. And so now it's my pleasure to present Chris Stewart, principal of Auburn High School, Brian Kitts, principal of Blacksburg High School, and I forgot to turn around and look at Mr. Crackhead. Oh, we got a thumbs up. And Miss Courtney Craggett, the assistant principal of Christiansburg High School, and Danny Knott, the principal of Eastern Montgomery High School. Each one of those will come up in succession and present their seniors.
Good evening, board members, Dr. Graham, Dr. Meyer. It's my privilege to present to you both the January and February seniors of the month at Auburn High School. I'd like to start with January. Keith Russell Reed. I'd like to invite Keith and his family up, stand beside me. Keith is with his parents this evening. I'd like to just read a quote about Keith from one of our staff members. Keith Reed is an exceptional mathematics student. Keith has developed a great number sense over his educational career. This ability allows him to quickly compute solutions in his head. Keith is a joy to teach in the mathematics classroom due to his desire to understand each concept fully, not just reach the correct answer to the question. His solutions are precise and well thought out. Keith always strives to learn more about each type of problem, as well as how each branch of mathematics works together. In addition, Keith is a great group member who is willing to help others understand concepts and solutions. It is my pleasure to be his teacher for pre-calculus, applied calculus, and calculus 1 and 2. Congratulations, Keith. All right. At this time, I'd like to recognize Auburn High School's February Senior of the Month, Marilyn Nora Odegens. I'd like to invite her up, May and her family up. May is here this evening with her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Odegens. I'd just like to read a quick quote from one of our staff members about May. May is an AP student who goes above and beyond in all her assignments. She is the president of the Young Democrats Club and has organized fundraisers, voter registration drives, volunteered for local political candidates, and raised awareness on social issues among the entire student body. She is also chief of staff of the school newspaper. She inspires and motivates her peers to accomplish the common goal of relaying information to the community. May has received acceptance letters from Radford University, Hollins University, University of Michigan, and LaSalle University. She hopes to pursue degrees in both political science and English to one day become a political journalist. As a faculty, we could not be more proud of May as she begins her journey after high school. Congratulations, May.
Good evening. Blacksburg High School is proud to introduce Eli Burnett as our January Senior of the Month. He's accompanied this evening by his mom, Ezra. Would you all please come forward and be recognized? The Physical Education Department is proud to recognize Eli for his outstanding efforts in advanced physical education. Eli is a model student at BHS who strives for excellence each and every day. He can be counted on to give 100% in everything he does and is a great addition to our school, a joy to have in class, and a member of our family. Congratulations, Eli. Great job. We're also proud to introduce Jet Bingley as our February Senior of the Month. Jet is accompanied by Mom Susanna and Dad Sid. Would you all please come forward and be recognized? It has been our pleasure to have known Jet for 4 years. He has participated in most all of the Fine Arts Department classes, the National Art Honor Society, graphic design, and has also participated in various art exhibitions and extracurricular art activities. He has been an active member in the Art Guild as well as the National Arts Honor Society. He is currently putting together his portfolio for application to several prestigious art schools, including VCU and Savannah College of Art and Design. We expect to hear great things from artist Jet Bingley. Congratulations.
Good evening. Could y'all hear me? Okay. It is my pleasure on behalf of the Christiansburg High School community to recognize Xavier Wright as our Senior of the Month. At this time, I would like for Xavier and his family to come forward.
CPS alumni.
Xavier has such a fun spirit and a beaming smile that is contagious to his peers and to the staff at CHS. He has a magnificent work ethic and is a great leader. Xavier is a fine young man who embodies what it means to be a student athlete. He manages being an excellent student, all while balancing commitments to sports and other extracurricular activities. He manages his time well between the classroom and fulfilling commitments to 3 sports throughout the year and has a great rapport with teachers and classmates. Xavier volunteers with Children's Church at Greater Mount Zion Baptist Church and coaches at Blue Demon Youth Football. He was also first team all-district and region football, offensive line and defensive line, Togetherness Coaches Award, and letters in football and track and field.
Excuse me. Good evening. It's a privilege tonight to introduce 3 Eastern Montgomery High School Seniors of the Month. Our November Senior of the Month is Roger Ball. If Roger and his grandmother and his girlfriend would join us up here. I told her I was going to embarrass her. Roger was unable to be here in November due to participation in our choral concert that night. EMHS teacher Jenny Brown had this to say about our Senior of the Month. Roger works incredibly hard in school and at work, takes responsibility for himself, and takes initiative to pursue things that are important to him. Since 9th grade, Roger has had a very specific plan for his life. Roger has always wanted to serve his country, and despite his best efforts on assessments, he has met obstacles with some of the requirements. That hasn't stopped him. Roger currently holds a 20-hour-a-week position at Shawsville Middle School as an evening custodian, all while going to school. He also, so he didn't have any downtime, got another part-time job at McDonald's on the weekends. He cares deeply for his family and for people in general. Perfect attendance is important to Roger, so he has maintained perfect attendance since entering kindergarten. You really owe Ms. Brown now, okay. Overall, Roger is a top-notch young man. Congratulations, Roger. Our January Senior of the Month is Levi Bauer. He's accompanied tonight by his parents, if they would come forward. Several staff members had this to say about our Senior of the Month. Levi is a great role model for a lot of freshmen who make their way into the Student Center to explore the technology offerings we have. He does a wonderful job with the elementary students in the robotics program with Ms. Yates, our ITRT, at Eastern Montgomery Elementary School. Levi is very responsible and hardworking. Regardless of the fact that some tasks have been difficult for him, he works hard and doesn't let that stop him from pursuing the things he is passionate about. He is a senior who always shows up for whatever he has to do. Congratulations. And lastly, our February Senior of the Month is Morgan Hall. He's accompanied tonight by his mother, if they would come forward. You owe Ms. Holly. Brittany Holly had this to say about our Senior of the Month. Morgan is a great student and a very kind individual. He never misses a chance to greet me and ask me how my day is going. He works hard in his classes and is willing to help others. Morgan has passed one automotive service excellence certification, and Mr. Dickerson predicts he will pass more before the year is over. Morgan is always eager to work and take on any task. He has a great work ethic and a bright future in the automotive industry. Congratulations.
This concludes our recognitions for tonight. We will take a 5-minute break so that the board members may congratulate those that received awards tonight.
Next item on our agenda is our employee budget presentations.
Yeah.
And I think the first group I have, transportation, with Mr. Barnes. If you can come forward and ready to hear. It's over here on the agenda. If you go there.
Good evening, board members and Dr. Meyer. I'm John Barnes, and I've been one of your school bus drivers in the Blacksburg section of Montgomery County for 17 years. I've also been training new school bus drivers for the past 10 of those years. Our drivers and aides have asked me to represent them this evening. We'd like to thank you for the continued support you've shown our department. Tonight, we greet you for the second annual request. Again, for this upcoming budget cycle, we're requesting that all school bus drivers and aides that are on a regular contract be included in the system's group health insurance. We're talking about 108 dedicated employees. We realize that an employee contribution will be necessary to make this possible. This addition would be a large budget item, but the impact would be fewer than 108 for 2 reasons. Some of these 108 are already included in the insurance. Additionally, some of these employees would decline the benefit. We are in a fairness dilemma still, with Bus 23 receiving health insurance and Bus 24 not receiving health insurance. We would also be glad to provide an early response so you could better plan how many would decline the benefit. This item was on one of your draft worksheets a year ago, but it was cut out as the process finalized. As we all know, the best decision is usually not the easiest and definitely not the least expensive one. Making this investment in these safety-sensitive employees at this time is what is best for the students of Montgomery County. Although pupil transportation on school buses is very safe, there are risks when it is not handled properly. And as Ty stated when we started our meeting, one of our goals is physical safety of our students. For far too long, these employees, they're treated as part-time when it comes to financial concerns, but they're treated as full-time when they're needed outside of their regular work hours. We are the first employees that you call after school when a child is missing. We are the first employees that you send an urgent text message to when the snowflakes fall or when the floodwaters rise. New hires, citizens, and even my friends are often surprised when they hear that we do not have this security. To add the security of health insurance to our transportation department would also be what is best for long-term management of MCPS. Hiring and retention is a constant struggle. Even if we had applicants, training is expensive, and there is no replacement for a 20, a 30, or a 47-year veteran school bus driver. Since we met here a year ago, we now have our fleet technicians driving school bus routes. And while this demonstrates their dedication and our department's ability to work together, it is an alert that there is a serious driver shortage in our district. Additionally, we do rely on substitutes heavily, and we ask that they remain on the C-M pay band, which is the pay band the bus drivers are already on. We are dedicated to the students of Montgomery County Public Schools, and that is why all of us are here this evening for the students. Please do not let another budget cycle pass us by without making the best decision for the students in Auburn, Eastern Montgomery, Christiansburg, and Blacksburg. Thank you. This job is no joke.
Thank you, Mr. Barnes. Next group of employees are instructional aides and Ms. Connie Blows. Good evening.
This year, in last Monday, I was in Richmond with 3,000 of my closest friends and coworkers of the state of Virginia. I was talking to some of the other paraprofessionals about their VRS and how this area did not have VRS for us. And that was something that I brought back. We was talking among ourselves and said that we'd like to see if VRS could be added to all the instructional people. Also, we would like to see respect for our hard work and let us know that our work is given to us, that we enjoy our work, but we also want to know that we are being respected by our co-workers and let us know that we are doing a good job. And also, with the Senate and the House of Representatives both stating that they want to see a 5% pay increase, we would like to see this brought to us also. Thank you for all your hard work you do for the schools, for the teachers, for the support professionals, and for our students each day.
Thank you. Next group of employees are administrative assistants, Ms. Cromer. And Ms. Wall.
She's making me do this. Again, I'm very nervous. Okay. Good evening. My name is Rhonda Cromer, and I am an employee of Montgomery County. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you on behalf of the administrative assistants. As we have mentioned in the past, we are a hardworking group of employees who love our students and our schools. Each day, we do our best to ensure things run smoothly, that our students are safe, that our faculty and staff are supported. Sorry, my voice is getting that our parents are well informed and their needs are met. So our buildings can be places of true learning and community resources. Administrative assistants make up a small group of Montgomery County employees. We have waited patiently for changes in salary scales and also increases in order to become more competitive with other school systems. We want to express our appreciation of past support from Dr. Meyer and our board. We wholeheartedly back Dr. Meyer's request for a 3.5 increase. across the board. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next group of employees are nurses. Ms. Hilton.
Good evening. My name is Robin Hilton. I'm here tonight to speak to you on behalf of the school nurses and our request for VRS. We are required to recertify our license every 2 years and complete and maintain continuing education credits. We play a vital role in attendance, nutrition, both physical and mental wellness, and a student's ability to focus, all of which are integrals in obtaining high achievement among students, and we love our jobs. Sometimes I think when people hear the term school nurse, they think that we are less than your average office nurse. Our job is unique, and we are so much more. We collect and review medical information, collaborate with healthcare providers and parents to assure that we are doing best for each of the students. We attend numerous 504, IEP, child study, and SAP meetings. We complete state-mandated screenings and reports and provide training to our staff, including CPR. We generate revenue from Medicaid billing and act as a supervisory role to some of our instructional aides who work one-on-one with our special needs children. We host nursing students from local colleges and universities. One such student just this week sat and watched the first 35 minutes of my morning routine and said, quote, "You are a well-oiled machine." I have never seen anyone assess, prioritize, and handle so many different things at once, end quote. We are specialists in reaching out and utilizing community resources. We are first in line for medical care and in meeting basic needs of our many families. There are students that come to the clinic asking for shoes, socks, coats, and sometimes even clean clothes and food to take home. Our middle and high school nurses deal with teen pregnancies, STIs, and drug use. On an elementary level, I see and care for students dealing with the ramifications of drug use by family members. We all have had an instance where we are that one adult that a student might reach out to when dealing with a mental health crisis. We are so much more than the keeper of the Band-Aids. We administer numerous medications, have students with diabetes, asthma, seizures, life-threatening allergies, feeding tubes, and students that require catheterization daily. I personally have a student whose altered gait had worsened so greatly over the summer that at the beginning of the school year, she could not walk even with assistance, who now walks unassisted because she's receiving a treatment for a newly diagnosed neurological condition. We handle emergencies. During this school year, one of our school nurses had a student present with a pneumothorax. That's a collapsed lung. We have dealt with fractures, amputations, and other conditions requiring a 911 call. We all play a vital role. Each consecutive year that we are at our schools, we develop trusting relationships with our families, and our growing experience and confidence allows us to better meet the needs of those in our care. Consistency such as this is priceless. We were recently told that our FSLA status now has us classified as salaried exempt licensed professionals. We are contracted for and are paid for 6.5 hours per day. I have 13 years experience in this position, and I have fewer students in my school than most, but I am still not able to effectively do my job within the guidelines of my license and in the time that I'm given to do it. Those numbers are even, with very few exceptions, we work 7 to 7.5 hours a day. Those numbers are even higher when we are required to attend meetings outside of school hours and at the beginning of the school year due to the amount of paperwork and state reports that we are required to do. Since we are salaried exempt, we are not compensated for those extra hours. As nurses, we are aware that our profession is like that at times. The extra work without compensation, however, is generally coupled with certain benefits. We were each attracted to this job for various reasons. One of the most common reasons that brought us to this position was the benefit of a schedule that allows time with our families. The most common request for a benefit we are missing is retirement. We understand that there are other employee groups that do not receive retirement, and we do commend you in wanting to provide this benefit for all. However, we respectfully ask for you to take into consideration that we are the only licensed professional salaried exempt group that does not receive VRS. Dr. Meyer, I'm going to end with a quote from you. I was present at the Bellevue faculty meeting where you presented the budget. A question was asked regarding when one particular school would receive similar sports fields that were recently upgraded at another school. Your reply was, and I quote, "We can't go around making sure that everyone is equal at the same time," end quote. We could not agree more. It would take years to have the funds to provide VRS to all the groups that currently do not receive it. Our small group of 20 would be a great place to start. Thank you.
Thank you. The next group is representing the Montgomery County Education Association, Mr. Ciucati.
Matt will be speaking.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome to look through. I'm going to be reading what is in front of you, and all of you can read, but you're welcome to look at the graphs that we've given you, similar to last year, and probably things that you've had on your smart boards and projectors as well. But we have 3 priorities, Montgomery County Education Association. The first one is salary. All right, that is our top priority for all current employees to receive a salary increase. We appreciate that this year all teachers are placed correctly on the salary scale based on years of experience. Educators are increasingly responsible for our students, as you know, who arrive at school with even greater needs. Dr. Meyer has proposed a 3.5% salary increase for all employees, and we fully support this. Based on the increasing cost of living and student debt, teachers need a significant raise every year to be able to stay in this profession. Off of the script here, I remember a time when 3% was a cost of living, and it was a given. So I'm hoping and praying one day we get back to that. But we understand Dr. Meyer's proposal for additional funds to bolster the salary scale for years 0 through 10. And actually, the VA's own data that we've included here kind of shows, as you look through there, the ranking of Montgomery County and how it's not really ranked very highly, or it is high. If you look at it, out of 131 counties, we were like 100 or something. And it gets better as your years of experience. However, we feel strongly that next year additional funds be used to compensate loyal employees who have shown commitment to the county for over 10 years. Your 10 through 30 plus. Montgomery County Public School needs both strong new teachers as well as high quality experienced educators. Our second priority is health insurance. Quality health insurance remains a critical component to employee compensation packages. And I didn't get a cold from Glenn just to cough up here about that. But the single subscriber benefit has shifted from PPO over time to HMO to the high deductible HSA plan. This action alone has saved the county money in terms of insurance costs, but allowed employees to maintain choices to best fit their families. It is imperative to maintain the current level of support for the HSA accounts. There should also be no increase in employee paid premiums for HMO option. And I know you've heard us say this last sentence before, but any additional increase in employee contributions amounts to a decrease in compensation. And our third employee is staffing. We also see the need for additional staffing to support our students, and that's what it's all about. As the funds become available, please ensure adequate staffing to make sure that we have enough employees to properly assist exceptional learners such as English language learners and special education. In addition, funding for school counselors and nurses is needed for student health and their safety. And always on behalf of Montgomery County Education Association, we would like to thank the hard work of the school board and the opportunity for us to speak tonight. We appreciate your past support and your current dedication to the employees and students of the school system. As professionals entrusted to teach generations of educated citizens, we ask you to continue to make a significant investment in me, in students, and in staff members, and we always thank you. Are there any other questions, or any questions, I should say? Not other.
At that time.
Thanks for this time.
Thank you. Thank you. These are all the employee groups that are in front of me lined up. Is there any other employee groups that we're missing that they would like to address? Not seeing. The next item will be our public hearing, the budget part. We will hear comments on our 2019-2020 school operating budget. I have one individual sign up, is Pam Epperly. If you want to come forward and address the board. You don't? Okay. Any other members from the public would like to come and address regarding the budget? I see none. Our public hearing will be closed. Next item is our public address. At this time and at each of our regular scheduled meetings, the school board sets aside 30 minutes for citizens to address the board about issues pertaining public education in Montgomery County. Each speaker is allowed 3 minutes to speak. The screens throughout the room and the laptop will indicate when 30 seconds left and when the 3 minutes has passed. As a reminder, the board does not respond to speakers during the public address. Also, our policy does not allow comments about personalities or use of intemperate, abusive, or defamatory language. If a speaker violates this policy, they will be ruled out of order. I have a sign-up sheet, and I will call the names as they are listed. Please come forward, list your name and address, and then address the school board. And first individual is Gary Gray. I do not see. Next person is Elizabeth Poor.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Elizabeth Poor. I reside at 250 Chelsea Loop in Christiansburg, and my daughter currently attends Christiansburg Primary School, which, as you guys can see from the video earlier, how well we love that school. So I would like to talk a little bit about the redistricting. We've received our letter notifying us that we were in the proposed group to be changed. There's not been much information about this other than that we're option 3 to go. And our one question is, how do you plan to transport our children to school? Our assumption is by interstate. That's a big problem for us. That's a major interstate. In the area, particularly the intersection to get onto the interstate, is very dangerous. There's lots of wrecks there. The time of day is always extremely busy, and they're getting ready to do construction on it, which will also impact the flow of traffic there. I don't feel comfortable having my daughter on that interstate 360 times in the year, even though it's a short period. And excuse me for getting emotional, but this is kind of hard to handle. I'm worried that we're focusing more on a resolution for right now. Are we going to redistrict again in a couple of years? Where's our new school? How about we get some schools that are appropriate for our children to be in versus just shifting them around? We have schools that are only at 70% capacity. We have a school in Blacksburg that's 148% capacity that allows 36 children from out of district to come into it. Why is that happening? Why do we have 25 kids out of district coming into Christiansburg Primary? Why do we have 33 out of district coming into Christiansburg Elementary that are so over capacity? You eliminate those, and then you tack on to like option 1, where there's no interstate involved, and that puts you at about 100 students that you're taking out of that school. And that's just 20 students or so that are different or less than what you propose with option 3. You have students coming from miles away. I can almost see Christiansburg Primary from my school or from my house, and you're going to send me to a school further away. My daughter's in tears because she might have to change schools. You know, our other concern is that, you know, we have to plan for the future, not just right now. You know, some people are under the assumption that if your child attends a daycare that is in CES or CPS district, they can ride that bus to there even though they live in the Falling Branch district. Is that the case? Because my daughter, she doesn't attend a daycare, but she often is, well, every afternoon she rides to a bus that is in CPS. We now lose that, and we have to scramble to find something different. And in closing of what you said earlier, it's about the data. It's not always about the data, and I hope you do use some emotion when it comes to my daughter's safety and her future. Thank you.
Thank you. Next individual sign up is Ms. Tabitha Rust.
Good evening. My name is Tabitha Rust, and my family lives at 1591 Radford Road in Christiansburg. My son George Rust is in 5th grade at CES and will attend CMS next year. My son Henry Rust is in 1st grade at CPS. I asked to speak this evening to state my opposition to the proposed redistricting. My older child attended CPS and now CES, and we have had a very positive experience with both schools. We've enjoyed the schools, the teachers, the staff, the after-school program through Adventure Club, and the community that we have with those schools. And we would like for his younger brother to have the same experience. And CES and CPS are literally 2 miles from my house. It's very convenient, and I also have concerns about going past those schools to go to Falling Branch through areas of very heavy traffic, whether you're on 460 or I-81. And that is my very primary concern. I echo the previous speaker that the potential for the bus route to go on I-81. The shortest route from my house to Falling Branch is on 460, which is 5 miles, as opposed to 6 miles on I-81. And I called and spoke with the transportation department, and I understand that, of course, the bus routes are not determined yet, but that the most efficient route would be utilized, and that some buses do go on I-81, and that is a very big concern for my family. So my questions would be, would you be willing to offer any exemptions other than to 5th graders, as the letter stated, and would the bus route go on I-81? And another question would be, would the school board in Falling Branch consider, if this redistricting does have to take place, would you consider allowing parents to request that students be placed together in classrooms, that if they're both coming from CPS, if they could possibly be placed in the same classroom, at least for the first year, just to make that transition a little bit easier on the kids? And finally, I'm wondering if there are any plans for expanding or renovating CPS and CES, and if so, if there's a timeline set for that yet. Thank you for this time to speak.
Thank you. Next individual is Ms. Bull from MCA.
I'm traveling with a wingman.
You're always happy to see Ms. President.
I'm Erin Bull. I live at 2422 Ridge Road in Blacksburg. And this is Kelly Pleasant. She lives in Blacksburg as well. And we were just here to thank the board on behalf of the MCEA for allowing us leave for our lobby day. We wanted to let you know that much as you were meeting with legislators, we were doing the same thing to advocate for our educators and for our children. We had 11 MCEA members, teachers and support professionals, travel to Richmond last Monday. And I'm going to say, while a lot of people did not enjoy that Tuesday call, getting that call as I was coming back from Richmond, I was loving you, so I appreciate that. You were our favorite. But we were able to meet with Delegate Hurst, Delegate Rush, with the legislative aide for Delegate McNamara, Senator Suderline, and Senator Edwards, to talk to them about the needs for students in Virginia, and also talk about some needs specific to Montgomery County. While we were there, we also participated in a rally with approximately 2,000 other educators from across the state. And the big push from that has been getting the House of Delegates and the Senate to put in that 5% over the biennium. And while we were rallying, apparently they heard us figuratively and literally, because they sent out a message that the House budget and the Senate budget both did add the additional 2% to this budget year. So we are hoping that when things go through the conference committee, that will work out well for us. At the rally, we also heard a speech from Virginia Teacher of the Year, Rodney Robinson, and it is on Facebook and Twitter, and his speech was amazing because he tied the appropriate education to civil rights, and it really is. It's a civil right for every student to get a quality education, regardless of your zip code, regardless of your income level, and that's what we all do every day. Another push that VA is making is to change the ratio for school counselors. This is very important for student safety so that we have school counselors within the building who have time to actually counsel students and talk to them, because children today have a lot of needs that are having to be met by their teachers and by school personnel, and it definitely puts the safety of everyone in a better position when we're able to have this. So once again, just wanted to thank you and give you an update on our efforts, and we will continue to advocate at the state level just like we will be at the local level with the Board of Supervisors. So thank you all.
I have 15 seconds for a joke, because teaching elementary school, if you've never done it before or never spent a lot of time, it really is a laugh a minute, okay? And so I was on bus duty the other day, my very favorite job. But anyway, I was on bus duty, and I said something about safety first, and this little girl looked at me and goes, "Who's safety?" So she thought safety was going to get on the bus before her.
That's good. That is good. Next individual sign up to speak is Miss Akers.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Shirley Akers, and my residence is at 515 Depot Street Northeast here in Christiansburg. And I am come to speak to you to find out what is the status of the Friends Elementary School, because I am a part of a group that is very much interested in what's going to happen to it after June of this year. And just to give you a little bit of history about it, the Friends Freedmen Association had deeded property for CII, along with deeding a separate bit of property for a elementary school to be built. And in 1953, Montgomery County did build that school for the blacks, and also they built another school, a larger version for the other community here. The school was named Friends Elementary. And you can imagine why that name became so prominent, because the Freedmen's Association was the Friends Freedmen Association, which was a Quaker group out of Philadelphia. After the Friends Elementary School was built, the Old Hill School closed, which is now the Old Hill School Community Center, which had been known as also Christiansburg Community Center. And though this school was small, it only consisted of 4 classrooms, a multi-purpose room, a small cafeteria, a teacher's lounge and office. It did generate many well-educated, community-minded people. And the group that I'm a part of, we're just interested in finding out what will happen to that building and what we can do to advocate for that building. Thank you.
Thank you. Last individual sign up to speak is Mr. Poor.
Good evening. My name is Matt Poor, and I am also at 250 Chelsea Loop in Christiansburg. Thank you for your time tonight. Didn't really have anything planned out to say, but I did hear earlier that, kind of paraphrasing, that equality and fairness, there wasn't enough time for everyone to be treated equally. And that seems to be what's happening with Christiansburg. Aside from having kids go up the interstate, we're talking about taking 100+ kids to a school that already has 64 out of district. We're also going to take them in a U-shaped, potentially, a U-shaped pattern around another school district to get them there. In addition, kids 3 blocks away from the school will be taken 20 minutes down the road. It's been mentioned that another school has 148% capacity. It's also true that 10% of those kids are from out of district. I would like to see a map of what it would look like if all the kids were in their correct district. See where it'd play out then, because something's not right here. Christiansburg seems to always take the brunt in this. And in this case, the school that has the highest amount of percentage of over the capacity, which according to the website is what this is about, is capacity, will stay the same. Christiansburg will stay at 120%, and the school that is at capacity, 148%, will remain the school with the lowest amount of students who receive free lunch or reduced lunch. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the end of the speakers, and our public address is closed. Next item on our agenda is our consent items. If there's nothing to be pulled from the consent agenda, they will consider approved. Any questions regarding consent agenda, board members? Hearing none, we consider our consent agenda approved. Next item will be paying our bills. May I have a motion to pay our bills?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Any questions regarding the bills? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We pay our bills. Next item will be acknowledging the receipt of our financial summary reports. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any question regarding the financial summary report? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We approve our financial report. Next item is our part of the business meeting, and that will start with our board member reports. Any board member who would like to take on? Who would like to start?
I can go
Ms.
ahead and
Graham?
start.
Sure.
So as Dr. Meyer and has already mentioned, Dr. Meyer, Ms. Karan, and I attended the VSBA Capital Conference where we had the opportunity to visit, as Ms. Bull said, Senator Edwards, Delegate Hurst, Delegate Rush, and our newest representative in the Shawsville area, which is Delegate McNamara. It was definitely a pleasure to meet with Delegate McNamara, and hearing his support for public schools was very encouraging. At the Capitol Conference, we also heard from our VSBA lobbyist, Stacey Haney, who provided us an update on all the bills and how they would affect our schools. And then, of course, we got the time to meet with our delegates and talk over all of those, which was very beneficial, and they also had some great ideas they were bringing to the table, which was encouraging for us to hear. I also finished up most of my school visits this past week, and it's just amazing what we're doing in our schools. The majority of our elementary schools are really embracing the second recess, and some had already implemented this before even the legislation because they saw the need for their children. It was also encouraging to see the progress we're making in CTE, not only in our high schools, but also in our middle schools. I also had the opportunity to see the newest addition to CTE, the new CNA class at Auburn High School, and it was clear by the number of students in the class and their enthusiasm for having the class that it was needed and will be successful. I'd like to thank Mark Husband for providing this opportunity for those students at Auburn High School. I would also like to thank the employee groups for speaking with us tonight. As you know, we do our best to fulfill your needs. Sometimes we can't do it all, and it's a hard decision for us. I will say that. And I would certainly like to express my appreciation to all of our school counselors for all that they do for our students each and every day. We know that their one-on-one interventions make a difference.
Thank you, Ms. Graham. Any other board members would like to continue? Ms. Dana?
Yes, thank you. I think I had mentioned at our last meeting about the CHS Parent Advisory Night. There was a follow-up to that the following week that got canceled due to the weather. However, CHS stepped up and they sent out an email to the students and the parents that had a PowerPoint attached with questions that were probably sent in by email. They realized with the weather, so they got people to send their questions in by email. They answered pretty much all of those and then some. I know that my daughter got to do her curriculum pick last week, and so I'd just like to, and they came up to the school, made everything went very smoothly from what I heard at the middle school. So I just want to say thank you again to Mr. Deibler and Mr. Gunn and Miss Ballard and Miss Hipple and everyone and all the teachers that were involved in that night and those decisions and all that help, because I know there's still a lot of nervousness there, a lot of excitement there, but it looks like everything went well and they're very excited to move up to high school. I also was able to attend the Eastern Montgomery DARE graduation that happened January the 10th. The 5th grade class, this is a great program. This happens in all of our schools in the county, in the elementary schools. Most of the time that's ran by the school SRO, and I don't know where he went, but Joey, there you are. Joey did a fantastic job. He just got moved to that school as their new SRO, and from what I could tell with his speech and the way the kids interacted with him, that it was phenomenal, Joey. So thank you for everything that you do with that program. We really do appreciate you and all of that. Is there anything you'd like to add about that program to let everyone know how great that is?
Yes, you can come forward. Yep.
First off, thank you guys for letting us come into the schools. And I will say that I taught DARE last year at Bellevue and this year at Eastmont, and they actually gave us probably 15 more minutes, which in the swing of things, the way the DARE is, you have to say exactly what they tell you to say because they want the training to be the exact same across the country. So that extra 15 minutes gives you a lot of leeway to make sure you're getting everything in the way it's supposed to be got in. But yeah, it's 10 weeks. Our students did great. Bellevue did great last year, and just thank you guys for letting us do that.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Appreciate all of you.
Price's Fork had their graduation on Friday, February the 1st, and that went great. Hank spoke at that one. He gets asked to speak at some of those, but it's just a pleasure to go to those and watch those kids get up there and talk about what they've learned and know the good and the bad and the right decision to make.
And those essays are always
and the essays are wonderful. Yeah, they all get up there, and I believe that they get voted on by the children as well as some of the teachers and the instructors. So that's just a wonderful, wonderful thing we're doing with that. Today, Ms. Bond and I were able to do a wonderful visit with one of my favorite schools, Eastern Montgomery High School. And we had a great visit with Principal Knott and Vice Principal Mr. McDaniel. And we got to attend the great power hour that everybody's been hearing about. So if you guys ever get the opportunity just to go down, it's from 10:55 to 11:55. I encourage you to go check it out because we were just blown away. Were we not?
Yeah.
They have it like Mr. Knott said, it's a controlled chaos, basically. But this is something that has improved with and helped discipline. It also has given the children choices during the day when they're told basically what they have to do the rest of the day. This opens them up for choices. It gives them responsibilities. Just good social life skills involved in that. Very encouraging. It empowers them. It lets them make decisions on their own, and I can't even begin to say how great it is. Is there anything you'd like to add to it?
Well, for me, of course, I told Danny that VSBA coming up, that needs to be on the, because it was really, really cool. He needs to be a presenter, and we done told him that. Yes. But, okay. Yeah, but he's for a local one, he said. I'm talking about VSBA. We need to go the big route, okay?
No, she wants him to go big time. She wanted this to be big time.
Just because, I've gone to so many of the breakout sessions, and, you kind of go, well, yeah, that's a great, that's something you can implement. That's something schools can make happen. And, you know, you've heard me fuss for all these years. We talk about a whole lot of stuff, but it doesn't ever get to happen. And one of the things that, you know, I've listened to when we were talking about changing the hours and the blogs that I read, that students were saying you can start time and finish it whenever you want to, but when we're staying up till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning with these heavy loads and the heavy classes, and I watched my daughter go through it, there's no downtime, there's no relaxation time. And the one thing I took away from this power hour is kids can just chill a minute. You know, they can just play a game, they can just calm down. And I think sometimes the same thing with taking the different rankings away with seniors. That's what we're trying to do, is take some of the pressure off. Okay, well, this is a great way to help achieve that goal, because it's an hour that, whether we think kids need that downtime or not, they do. Playing Uno, just sitting and talking, you know, having lunch, getting a little tutor session, so they've got to edge up for tomorrow. Yeah, I just was really, really impressed, and I think it's something all our high schools need to try or work toward, and like I said, take it to the state level. And maybe some of the schools there, and from what I understand, he's already had schools contacting him about this great program, which is what it's about. So,
yeah, very encouraging.
Very good.
Very encouraging. You guys get a chance, go check it out. You will not be disappointed. I also got to go by Shawsville Middle School today for a quick visit with Mr. Hipple. Great things going on there. He had all kinds of things starting. We actually, he actually told me that they took away from the Christiansburg Middle School the January, February, the monthly writing compositions that have been going on. They started those there last month. So he let me know today that the top 3 people for January, who said were 3 students that weren't normally recognized, but one of the fun things he did with that was those kids got to come in and have a donut and milk this morning in the principal's office. So, yeah, so he brought in donuts, just kind of a little celebration, just to get them. So he's got that going on there. We walked around. There were posters up. He set a theme, I think, for bullying in October. All kinds of posters up. The kids had a big competition with that. All of those were on the wall. Those were great, phenomenal. Still had those hanging up. I did want to mention that they are having their first science fair, 8th grade science fair, this coming Thursday night at 6 p.m. If anyone is interested in stopping by, 30 to 45 minutes at Shawsville Middle School. This is basically for the gifted students in the 8th grade program science class, and this will be their first one. So if you get a chance, check it out.
Exciting.
It should be exciting.
Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Barton.
Yes.
Any other board members would like to chime in from the
Sure, I've got a couple things. I don't know if you guys remember the last couple times that we've been to the NSBA. We've seen those pop-up planetariums. And so I guess since the last time we talked, I happen to have a member of my family who's an astronomer, and I was talking to him about this, and he remembered that he was at a conference. Anyway, long and the short of it was that I guess there's a whole group of people out there that support a kind of an open source version of this. So I engaged with some of our staff on that and collected some information. I don't know if you guys remember, it was kind of sold to us as like a $10,000 or $15,000 solution that really was like a $60,000 solution. Unfortunately, the open source solution is not quite as cheap as the $10,000, but we could probably do something in the 20 to 30K range, I was told. So that's something I think for now, I mean, staff's report was that the Radford Planetarium for now, I think, is serving our needs, but I think, you know, I just wanted to plant that out there in case in the future we wanted to go in that direction. I attended I guess the academic parents' night for rising 9th graders at BHS, and found that to be thoroughly confusing and stressful. I see where it all comes from. So so that was good. A lot of work that went into that. I had a visit to GLE, and I had a visit with a Cub Scout troop, and I always love at the end of those to ask the kids what they think of the school system, what they would change, and all of the requests came back as capital related. basketball courts and gyms and things like that. So I took that to be a good sign that everything else was going really well. So that's it for me.
Thank you. Ms. Fraga?
Yes, so since our last meeting, 1 month ago, I started my job as liaison with the town of Blacksburg. They've had 4 meetings since then. What was I thinking? And anyway, so I'm only going to tell you the highlights that really going to apply to us. Okay?
That's a lot of meetings.
Yeah, they're crazy. But anyway, one good news they did report. Apparently sales tax is starting to pick up, which they think is that these online retailers are finally starting to send the funds to the state and to the localities that they are supposed to. So they're seeing that, and the county should also be seeing that. So hopefully that's a sign of a little more revenue coming our way. You know, the things we always worry about that they do are rezoning requests, which most of them typically involve student housing. They have 2 in front of them right now. One would affect the Beeks district, but it appears to be pretty much entirely student housing located right next to Stadium Woods. The other one, which is on Patrick Henry and affects Lincus, has half of this, it's 215 bedrooms. Half of them are 1 and 2 bedroom units, which is the kind of thing you often see families in. So that's one that, you know, could impact our schools. But I think the biggest thing going on that front really is the county level right now. The proposed development out in the Prices Fork area, that's going to be significant growth for that area. Fortunately, we have capacity at that school for it. Interesting thing they did was, Mr. Kranz could be able to explain or talk to me about this better, but they did an advanced spending resolution, which basically allows them to spend money now and issue bonds later to reimburse for past spending. Doesn't that sound like creative financing there that we could use? They were able to approve their capital improvement program. Jealous, glad they can. And they finished their downtown strategic plan. Unfortunately, the old BMS district is completely still undefined and up in the air. And of course, we are waiting for that money to come to us because that's, you know, still part of the deal that has not gone through. So waiting any day for, I guess, a rezoning request and for that to go on through. One thing they did mention, they have received some complaints about the new lighted sign at Beeks, and that it's a little distracting and bright at night. And I know we had similar complaints when Lincus first started their animated bright sign, so I don't know if that's something that's, you know, going to come to us or not, but they have received a few complaints about that. And then today they presented their transit development plan, which is interesting. Blacksburg Transit, which actually serves Christiansburg partly as well, is the 4th largest transit system in this state. It's actually pretty significant. It topped over 4 million riders this year. And what's exciting is some of the new routes that they're looking at. One in particular would go all the way out to Blacksburg High School finally. They're also talking about extending services out through the Merrimack area and maybe eventually even to Reiner. Like a commuter out to there. So that would be wonderful. And just an interesting note, because this has come up, I know, with the Board of Supervisors, that they've started to set time limits on applicant comments now when they have rezoning requests to 3 minutes. Apparently they had unlimited time. So that was all the business of the town that in any way really affected us.
Well, very informative. I'm glad you're doing that.
I'm learning a lot about rezoning. And then the other thing I'll just put out there, of course, is that the Education Foundation Poetry Contest continues. The deadline is February 28th, and we've gotten our first 2 submissions. So take one of those snow days and do some writing.
Thank you, Ms. Fragan. Ms. Franklin?
Okay, well, I'll just say I attempted to be at the legislative conference, which got snowed out and me stuck in Richmond a few weeks ago.
You actually went. Right.
Okay,
and it was canceled.
Yeah, so I attempted to attend that and participate in the Workforce Readiness Task Force, which we will be having a conference call tomorrow. Weather and rescheduling also has interfered with their activities. Is it?
Thank you. Ms. Bond, you have anything to add? You know.
I'm good. I mean, my town meeting is next Tuesday night, the first one that I'll be able to. Yeah.
That's great. We'll like to look forward to hearing.
Yeah.
As far as what I did, I attend many passion projects in the schools. That's my passion, I think, attend the passion projects, and they are so cool. And I don't think I ever ran into any 2 similar projects in any school in the county, which is pretty impressive, all the passions that our students have, so diverse, and you can run into anything and everything. I just find out, I think it was Price's Fork, how good environmental is to live in a yurt. And it is, you know, so small, so confined, so, you know, green, and such a small space, but very solid and stable. And he was very passionate about it and did a great job talking to me. Now I have to downsize and try to fit in a yurt. So Eastern Montgomery Elementary School, Harding Avenue, and Price's Fork were the passion projects of the month that I attended. The other, to me, interesting thing is I serve on a panel for aspiring superintendents program through Virginia Tech, and I represent, we were 2 board members and then 3 superintendents to just talk about the school board and superintendent relationships for aspiring superintendents. And it was very intimidating for me because I was the only non-educator in the whole room with all the superintendents, all the teachers, principals, and, you know, I think we are probably 30 of us, and it was overwhelming, but I think I survived, and I think I gave them little clues what the superintendents and the board, you know, board members, how the relationship should be. And of course, I was with Ms. Graham and Dr. Meyer in VSBA, so I won't repeat that. And the other exciting and overwhelming thing I did, Virginia School Board Association appointed me to represent 9th Congressional District at Federal Advocacy Institute in Washington, D.C. So I was there for 3 days, and there were 16 school divisions out of 132 represented, and I think there were 21 school board members there, so a couple localities have more than 1 member. But it was a huge thing for me because 9th Congressional District is a huge area. And the other interesting part is I was the only one west of Charlottesville. So everybody, the 15 other school board members were all from, you know, pretty much Northern Virginia area. But we had a great chance to talk around the table with Senators Tim Kaine and Mark Warner. And I think that I always know advocacy and lobbying are good things, but I find out one more time that I think it's very effective. They were taking notes, their legislative assistants taking notes and, you know, exchanging emails, so they're ready to follow up. Of course, the federal level priority was a little different than I think our priorities in state and down in the locality. This year's big push is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act reauthorization. Apparently, it authorized in signed in 70s, authorized last in 2004, and the federal government promises 40%, so they can pay the 40% of what costs us to educate special ed students. But so far, the federal government only provides 15% of it, so there's a long ways to go. So that's what National School Board Association took on for a big push. And there, you know, the idea was sharing the success stories. So you may all know that, but Montgomery County is actually one of the first ones that started the inclusion program in the state of Virginia. So I try to share our success stories, but then again, the cost that goes to the localities and the federal government picks up, that will give us money that we can spend otherwise. So I hope they will consider that. And the infrastructure and the school safety, also the national level, big pushes. So I think those are the ones that I also share with Senator Kaine and Senator Warner, and also I sat down with Congressman Griffin also one-to-one, and I really pushed the needs of school buildings and how we are, you know, the area is growing, it's a blessing, but then we have to fit all the number of students to the same buildings that are not adequate. So hopefully I made a little dent. You know, it's hard to know, but we have to wait and see. At least I can say I tried. Those are all our board reports, and the next one is, I think, grant proposal.
Yes.
Studies in.
All right. Let's see, grant proposal, studies in mathematical epistemology. Virginia Tech has applied for the National Science Foundation funding to study middle school students' mathematical development. Researchers would collaborate with Charlottesville Middle School teachers to help identify ways to make math instruction more meaningful for students with different levels of mathematical understanding. This grant is brought to you tonight for your approval.
May I have a motion to approve the grant?
So moved.
Second. Motion and second. Any questions?
What's the, some of the numbers were confusing to me here.
Dr. Schultz?
There's a negative dollar amount, and then there's an amount that's almost $500,000, but then the estimated benefit was 17.6 over 3 years. So,
the negative is how we all of the grants that we do should be posted as negative because it's money coming in, and the money that whenever we're doing the large grants, we put what we have to go for. What is the grant total that the other agency was going for that we partnered on? Then I try to break down in the subject, down farther into the description, what's the direct benefit to our teachers? What's the direct financial impact? So that's the same for, if you go back and look at some of the other large grants from early this summer or back for years, that's the practice that we've always followed.
So are we getting?
We are not the fiscal agent on the grant. We're a partner on the grant, so the money that, the $499,000 is tech money.
Are we the sole recipients of their research, and are we the sole partners in this process with them?
Yeah, we are the sole site that they're partnered with to conduct this research, yes.
All right. Thanks.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Shelton. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? We approve our grant.
All right. Let's see. First, school board salary increase. Based on the presentation by Ms. Froggatt in December, we've added this to tonight's agenda for your discussion.
I asked the presentation, Ms. Froggatt's presentation, attached again for your information. And if you look at the page number 13, she so nicely, labeled all the different numbers and how she came up with those numbers. And I think when you look at it, of course, we can discuss whether we want more or less than what is on the tentative budget. But the number is kind of a round number, and it fits on the list of the numbers between the average comparable salaries across divisions and relative percentage what Board of Supervisors makes, and also the average county board salaries. So 7,200 fits in between, and it is divisible with 12. But it is open to discussion whether, we want to stick to that number and how budget process progressed, and at the end we hopefully don't need to cut anything. But it has opened the floor. How do you want to proceed, and what is the guidance we can give to Dr. Meyer?
And Dr. Meyer, just to clarify, right now you have 7,200 allotted in the budget you've presented. Is that correct?
Correct.
That's correct. Yes.
Mm-hmm. The entire amount includes the school board raises plus benefits.
And the benefits with the assumption that everybody will take it.
Correct.
At this time.
At this time, yeah.
And I'd just like to say for the people that are here that missed the whole conversation, it's been 13 years since we've had a raise. And when I first came on the board, the board had just gotten a raise. Now, I've been on the board 13 years. And, a lot of times I'll read things and people go, oh, that's why they make the big bucks. Okay, $4,800 a year, that's a lot of money, isn't it? We have meetings all the time. We have to go and visit schools all the time. I mean, not that we have to enjoy doing it, but those are things that we do. And, when we were building schools, we met constantly all the time, and we didn't get any kind of extra compensation. We're required, just like other professional groups, to do different types of, workshop attendance, retreats, go on conferences and things like that, for me, who work straight commission, I just have to take a complete loss when I go. And So a couple years ago, I kind of brought this up, and it kind of got shot down, and that's okay. But, you know, with a different outlook, I think the board kind of went, okay, you know, I think you were right. It's been way overdue. But I know not everybody got to hear the first presentation, and sometimes people will say, yeah, you know, they're out trying to get them a raise. Well, first time in a long, overdue, way overdue time. So I just wanted to make sure that that got heard by a lot of the groups that are also advocating for raises and things like that too, because, you know, a lot of people feel like this is a duty, a civic duty, but when you have to be somewhere at a certain time, and sometimes it's midnight when we leave, or 11:30, and we get here at 7 o'clock, I feel like that's a job. You know, it's like I paid attention to when I came in with my little card on the back door. It said employees entrance. So I feel like I'm considered an employee of Montgomery County. And I feel like my time is just as important as anyone else in any other interest group that is in our district. So, you know, for 13 years, I've left my children. I've came and missed many dinners, missed many events with my kids, and I know every other board member over the last 13 years, or many years, has done the same as me. So just so it doesn't sound like we're sitting up here high and mighty trying to get money, I just had to throw that out there because of the public hearing night, and for those who did not happen to hear the conversation when it first was brought up. So with that being said, my vote. You.
Well, you know, in the meantime, all the other, you know, Board of Supervisors and both town council members had an increase in the times that we never receive increase. So that makes it fair on that part, on that aspect too. Any other discussions?
I think as far as the amount goes, I'm fairly happy with where the number is at. I don't. You know, I think I agree with Ms. Bond that, you know, certainly this job is something that I think we all do as kind of a civic duty. We enjoy doing it. It is a service to some degree, but it does come with some level of sacrifice sometimes, and having, I think having some compensation, a stipend, because you're right, I mean, we are employees legally too, but I think if we wanted to start having this discussion as far as employees, I think these numbers would be a lot higher, but I'm not advocating for that either. I mean, I think that it is a stipend. My biggest concern, I think, is actually in recruitment and recruitment, retention, and maybe what's the opposite of retention? You know, I don't want to pay so much that, you know, that I'm on the board 30 years from now because it's such a great gig, you know, for the wrong reasons. But I also, you know, there's oftentimes, there should be some incentive, and it's, you know, oftentimes I think there are, you know, there are races that are uncontested, which isn't always, I guess, necessarily a bad thing. I think when we have good candidates, but at the same time, you know, in a good democracy kind of a way, it's good not to be having write-in campaigns, you know, at the last minute because nobody wanted the job either. So it is a balancing act. So I think picking this number of 7,200, correct? Yes. You know, puts us, I like what Ms. Froggett did with her numbers. I think that puts us slightly below average, actually, which I'm fine with.
Yep.
And I think that's good. I think that the piece of this that takes even more consideration, I think, is the health benefits, because I think that's a bigger piece. But I also think that's something also that can be used as an incentive to encourage, you know, to encourage some good participation in the future. So.
For those who don't remember, that we're the only board that does not receive health insurance. The other boards in the county all receive the health benefits now.
Yeah. And to piggyback on what you were saying, Mr. Chukbaka, I could not have continued running if I didn't happen to be off on Tuesdays. And I'm just very blessed and fortunate that a lot of the events, different things that happen with the school board happened to fall on Tuesdays. So, and of course, you know, the board has always been very generous to try to help with that too. Because like I said, if I go to the meeting with the legislators for breakfast, if it went on a Tuesday, I would just have to take 2 or 3 hours off of work and eat it and lose it, you know. And so now that's for upcoming people who want to run. They've got to take all of that into consideration.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'll speak on, I'm sorry, I'll speak on your behalf too, if that's okay. You know, to a lot of folks, it looks like you all sit here for a few hours, a couple times a month. I talk to every one of them at least usually once a week, gooning every day, probably 3 times a day. It's constantly things that are happening that they need to know about. Their constituents are constantly contacting them with questions that they should probably call us about first, but they don't. That's okay. All right. And then they call us, and we're trying to work through things constantly. And this is outside of their regular jobs. And so, you know, it's amazing the job that they do and what's asked of them. And they do it, and their heart's in the right place too. They're doing it for kids. I truly believe that, and I think that's the main thing. They're here because they want our kids in Montgomery County to get the best education they can get, and so I think it's important that we have quality board members. So
I think Ms. Bond touched on the thing that really sparked me. 4 of our seats are up for re-election this year, which is why we're allowed to do this. And as much as anybody might hate competition, I think oftentimes it's actually cost prohibitive for someone to take this position. They simply can't afford to run and serve publicly without some form of decent compensation. And so I think as a result, there are people who would be good school board members that don't run simply because they can't afford to, and they can't afford to take off this much time out of their lives and that kind of sacrifice. So for me, that's was a big factor, that we need quality school board members and we need quality people running.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other board members who would like to share or chime in?
Yeah, it's been a long time since we've had this, and yes, I do believe it's just our duty. But, you know, it just kind of bothers me when we talk about the compensation being the driving force as to why people would run, because I sacrificed a lot over the last many, many years, but it's what I chose to do, and didn't even know that I was going to be compensated when I ran for the board until I was halfway through the campaign. So, you know, it's like,
most people don't know that.
Okay.
Yeah,
and,
that's true.
And it was a whole lot less than this. So, I hope that folks will not focus on the money and focus on the responsibility and the time that you're supposed to put into it, because that's what you're supposed to do. I agree it's time, but at the same time, I'm just like, really? Why is money the big issue? So, okay. But yeah, I cash my check every month too.
Ms. Graham, you would like to add anything?
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Pardon?
I'd just like to add, I've only been on the board for a year. However, it was much more than I had anticipated, and I'm not saying that in a bad way, because I have thoroughly enjoyed it. I've learned a lot. I've got a lot to learn still. I did not do it for the money. As a matter of fact, I wasn't even aware of
most people,
any money,
really
if
don't,
any money.
you know.
So I do think it is long overdue. I do think that we do as much as any other board member in this community, and I do think we are as important as any other board member in the community. So therefore, I do feel like that we should be compensated as any other board member in the community is. So.
Absolutely. Now, this gives all thumbs up to Dr. Meyer and Mr. Kranz. I think that to keep the number, how you
all right, so Ms. Kranz, you share the next, so we keep the number in the budget.
Yep.
Yes, sir. And then we, there'll actually be public hearing for this specifically, correct?
Right.
On the 19th.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. King, when I talked to Brad King, he said we do not need a public
You don't need
hearing.
a full public hearing, you just need to allow time for public comment.
That's correct, yeah.
It doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be
It doesn't have to
special,
be
yeah.
specific to the
Because we are
raise.
going with the option one, it
Okay.
doesn't have to be specific public hearing dedicated, but obviously public comments. Before we vote,
Because
I
it's part
think.
of the budget process, just the simple act of when we pass the budget, we will pass this since it's in there.
Yes.
Mhm.
But it does require a separate vote.
Voting, yes.
So the night that we approve
So on the
budget-
19th, we'll first
Oh.
vote on the school
Well, now,
board.
what I would say to that is, you know, what we're voting on the 19th is our request to the county. I'm talking about voting when we actually pass our
Okay.
budget.
Yeah, makes sense. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
When we have some idea what we're getting from the.
Really, yeah.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Because that
Yes,
affects the
absolutely.
discussions, what we can do and we can't do anyway, so.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So it'll be open for public comment between now and May, whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, he's staying right
And
there,
then-
Mr. Vance.
Just for public knowledge, it doesn't even go into effect until next January.
Next January, yeah.
So.
And then we theoretically.
Another year. It's gonna be 14 years.
And we have time, I understand it till
July 1.
July 1, but of course we approve our budget
Right,
May
in
anyway,
May,
so.
so it should be fine.
Yeah, so we'll be fine. Thank you.
All right, the next item is the budget discussion. At the last meeting, I presented my proposed budget, and tonight I welcome any suggestions as to any adjustments that need to be made. We're going to ask you to approve it on the 19th at the next meeting. If we need a separate meeting to discuss more, we can do that next Tuesday night, the 12th. Now, as you know, the budget that I've presented is what I feel are all of our needs. And you know, I think when the real discussions begin are when we know what we're getting from the Board of Supervisors and
And
get
the
the
state,
definite
yeah.
from the state. And then, you know, that's when you sort of start dissecting and making some choices and that kind of thing. Also, too, from the discussion tonight from the employee groups, they had some questions and some requests. I will get you all the cost of those requests.
Yeah,
Okay?
that's what I was.
And I've got a list of the things that different employee groups requested, and I will send you all a cost of each one of those requests, you know, for what it costs for VRS, for nurses, and, you know, for aides, and, you know,
Bus
health
drivers,
insurance
yeah.
for bus drivers,
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. I'll send you that. And you know, and I'm fine at the end of the day, us having those discussions. You know, I think that's great to look at as a possible option. You know, to adding some of those things that are not initially in there, obviously. But it's, at the end of the day, it's going to be what we get from the state and the Board of Supervisors. The good news is I can give you an update from the state, and Mr. Kranz, you can expand on this if you like. Both the House and the Senate have approved the 5%.
Correct.
And so that's a victory in itself. And you know, and so we're excited about that. That looks really positive. Of course, you know, with that comes an obligation for us too.
Yeah, Dr. Meyer, could you explain exactly how that 5% is going to work? I think we had some misinformation go out, and I'd like to
Yeah, sure.
public again.
Yeah, all right, so it's 5% based on the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And so last year, we gave an average of 1.5% raise, which means our obligation this year would be 3.5% raise. But it's an average of 3.5% for SOQ positions, which are standard of quality positions. And so, you know, what I've been doing in my faculty meetings, I explain this at our faculty meetings, and you know, like today I was at Falling Branch, and I said, okay, who are your second grade teachers? And 3 of them raised their hand. I said, okay, 2 of you keep your hand up, 1 of you take your hand down. You 2 get the raise, you don't. That's how that's how the state does it, not how we do want to do it, obviously. So basically, the state is funding 2 of those teachers, but we would have to completely fund the 3rd teacher, because they call it an SOQ, and it's not an SOQ because they're actually class size limits that are contradictory to what their SOQ is. And so that's an issue with the funding formula from the state. You know, I even said the same for the two principals. We have at Falling Branch, we have a principal and an assistant principal. I told the assistant principal he doesn't get the raise next year, you know, because that's, you know, which is not what we want to do, obviously. And so, so what the state looks at are the average raises over the past 2 years. It has to average out for the SOQ positions to 5%, and then we've got to match it. Now, with that 5% comes $2 million from the state. So that's a significant amount of money if we don't make that happen, okay? I've also explained to teachers that it could vary because we're trying to work on the beginning of the pay scale, and we're so far behind in steps, we're actually behind in steps 0 through 20, that it may end up being a differentiation of who gets what, you know, throughout the scale if we want to fix that scale, and that would count all towards the average. And so it's, you know, thank goodness we have some brilliant minds in finance to do the math that they do, to figure it out, to make sure we're in compliance with the state when we do actually give those raises. Yeah. And it's amazing. I ask them, and they just do some things in their computer, and they know it just like that. They're amazing. And so with it, you know, there are a lot of strings attached. Now, I just read part of it this morning, but I didn't get all of it. I don't know if you or Katie have had a chance to look at it. There's some more flexibility that they're talking about placing in that 5%.
What it does is it goes into that second year of the biennium, which will be in January of 2020. That instead of, if you didn't give all 5%, so you got to give 3% the first year. That second year, the 2%, if you gave only 1%, you would get a match proportionate
to the 1%.
To the 1%, so you wouldn't lose it off of that side of it.
So if we give the 3.5% this year, we'll get the entire $2 million from the state.
Correct.
If we don't get to that 3.5%, then we would not get the entire $2 million. We would get a proportional match.
Some proportionate amount
of that.
And that 3.5% is an average, or it's 3.5 for all SOQ, or just the average of all SOQ?
It's the average of all SOQs. Okay. So for instance, if we have a teacher who is in, say, step 25, and they get a 2.5% raise, and someone in step 15 gets a 4.5% raise. Sure. That averages out to 3.5. Gotcha. Okay, yep. And so, yeah.
And just to also clarify, last year we did 1.5, but because this was a 2-year thing, we didn't get anything from the state yet for that 1.5.
That's correct. That would come in year 2.
It doesn't come until year 2. So we had to pony up 1.5 last year, and at that time it was 3%.
Right.
Now they've upped it to 5, so we have to do 3.5 now instead of 1.5.
Yeah. We thought we were doing half last year.
Yeah, we thought we were doing half, and we turned out we weren't. Which I'm glad they are upping it, but at the same time, it puts that burden, a higher burden on us to get them at.
And that's why they did the flexibility on that second year, the 2%, is that the General Assembly is understanding that not every district's going to be able to afford it.
Right.
And so it gave you still some money if you did it.
You know, typically we probably wouldn't be able to afford it either, but luckily it's a reassessment year. And because it's a reassessment year, we're going to, you know, as long as the tax rates stay the same, we're going to see a significant amount of money, hopefully, for our county.
So that will tie my plea, and also thanking all the employee groups, and we appreciate you so much. I mean, if it is up to us, we probably will give everything that you're asking for. But please do your pleas to the Board of Supervisors. Show up March 4th, I think, starts when Mr. Meadows presents.
April 4th. It's April 4th.
March
4th. March 4th.
Public hearing.
Oh,
yes.
That is public hearing, but they can still come and address public address time here.
Absolutely.
And I think the budget discussion starts March 4 with Mr. Meadows presenting the first time around what his budget is to the supervisors. And from then on, almost like every meeting will be good to address, you know, constantly in big groups.
But April 4th is the
public hearing for the board.
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
Correct.
When you come back to us with some of that information, you said you were going to gather the costs. Can you give us some context too, as far as many of the employee groups? Some were asking for VRS. There was at least one group that asked for health benefits. They don't have them. So, you know, that's going to be one of my questions, just, you know, what the history is on that, you know,
absolutely,
that kind of a thing.
Yep.
So,
And it's, you know, this is, and I'll say this is the first school division that I've been in where every employee did not receive VRS. It was decided a long time ago. Unfortunately, it cost a lot, you know, to do it, but I'll give you the number. But it is unfortunate. I will say when I was in Lynchburg City Schools, for bus drivers, they went to giving health insurance. And they're right, it is a big draw if you can give health insurance to bus drivers to retain bus drivers. And many are possibly working after they've retired somewhere else to pay their health insurance with what they're making as a bus driver a lot of times. And so, so there are some places where we're definitely behind, you know. But it's like anything, you know, there's so many needs, and I'll let you guys make the final choices as to where that needs to go. But, you know, going through what is in my initial budget was, you know, it's a $6.1 million request from the Board of Supervisors. That includes, of that, over $4 million for salary, over $500,000 for insurance to keep the premiums the same. It is 22 teachers and 1 administrator. Reminding you, we are down 35 teachers and up 224 students since 2010. Okay, and so that's an issue that's concerning, and we're continuing to grow, and we have capacity issues in our schools. So there's so many challenges that we're facing right now. You know, we have to continue maintaining our fleet, which is very expensive as well. And so, you know, as we get towards the end of the budget, we have some, like always, we have better numbers obviously on the Board of Supervisors, the state. Some other numbers that usually have helped us in the past, for instance, is the numbers on fuel savings. And fuel prices have gone down this year. So with the fuel savings and the number of days we missed, because when we miss days, we save about $10,000 for every day that we miss. We bought a bus this year through the days we've missed. Okay.
It's not why I canceled school.
It's not why I canceled school. No, I do not cancel school to buy buses. Right, but you know, maybe right now we have 8 buses in there. Hopefully, we can reduce that and find another way to actually buy that item. We're hoping insurance. At the end of the day, it's not $500,000. You know, usually it starts high and gets lower as we get closer, because see, we had to put that number in there in January. Well, we're only 3 months into the year for health insurance, so it's hard for the insurance companies to give us a true estimate of our use, which is we're a group plan, so it's based off of our use. And so, you know, we've never seen it go up, and hopefully, and it usually always goes down. So we'll get better numbers as we move through the next couple of months as we move closer to the final approval. And so.
Okay, so I can't wait to see what the figures are to compensate our employees, which are a need. Yeah, as you said, bus drivers. You know, it's sad to see the big signs and buses parked, you know, drivers needed. And the work that our nurses do and their aides do and everybody else in the district, those are needs. So, you know, I'm always for putting forth a budget that shows the needs, right? So we need to retain our employees and treat them fairly and have them compensated fairly. And then after all the years they work for us, to be able to still live decently on a retirement. So when you send those figures back, I'm going to be saying we need to roll it all over into the $6 million already and put it out there to say this is what we need.
Okay, so how about this? How about I get those numbers and we line them in the actual budget, each one. Is that okay?
Yes.
And do you want me to, for VRS, do you want me to separate aides versus nurses?
Yes.
Okay. And I'll also add in the health insurance option for bus drivers. And let's line those in there, Mr. Kranz.
You
okay?
got it. That's not a problem. We did
Increase
a
that
similar calculation. We just need to go back and check, make sure I got all of it.
I think we've done a lot of the calculations.
I think we have. I just want to make sure we got everybody.
Okay. So we'll add those back in. Okay?
Thank you.
All right.
When we were on,
I was just going to say, I have to make, well, a couple comments, but last year, I believe it was you that made the presentation for the bus drivers. Did you make your, okay. I still remember, because I think people don't realize some of the things. I mean, I know with all our interest groups, people don't realize what you do. And it's easy to send our children to school and kind of let people do their jobs. But when you brought out the fact that, if a child gets sick on the bus, somebody's got to clean it up after hours. And when, if you're a bus driver, a lot of people think, oh, well, that's a part-time job, but you can't get another job because of early releases and snow days and having to pick up, late arrivals and things like that. And those were things I don't think I realized. And, because you just take it for granted. My children always rode the bus, and I'm a bus believer. I had great bus drivers. Growing up, I had great bus drivers, so I truly am a bus driver advocate. But the things that you brought to my attention last year has stayed with me, and I truly appreciate everything you guys do. And along with all our groups, I see you guys through 3 children, even though mine never had to spend any time in the nurses' stations and different things. Thank you for being there. And the administrative assistants, I've always said, I have been not so much at Blacksburg or any other school, but at Christiansburg when parents are irate and mad, and they're the first ones that have to take that madness and that irateness before they get to anybody else. Mm-hmm. So those ladies and gentlemen in that front office, they take that brunt for everybody, and I appreciate that. And a lot of our aides, some of the sweet, blessed students that they have to work with, sometimes it's just difficult. It can be really hard. And when I go to have lunch with my grandchildren now, since all my kids are grown, you see those you see those sweet students that have special needs, but sometimes it's really tough to work with and get from point A to point B. And I just appreciate everything all of you all do. So thank you.
I just want to jump in. We could probably discuss this upcoming board meeting time too, but do we want to meet next Tuesday and discuss any further, or is it too soon to get all those numbers and we're going to keep discussing on February 19th?
Well, what I'm hearing is, we're going to vote on the 19th. What I'm hearing is add those numbers in there to do the vote on the 19th. Mm-hmm. Okay. To send that to the board.
I just want to make sure that we need that.
Where I'm at. Right.
Yeah,
we do have one on.
So we probably don't need the next Tuesday's meeting. Am I hearing that right? Okay.
That's what I'm suggesting. The time we're going to have to start meeting is when
time comes to go through and we know the numbers.
Yeah. We actually know the numbers.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, sounds good.
So, still talking about the budget here. I did send an email to Mr. Krantz and to Dr. Meyer this week about the 23 FTEs there. I just wanted to make sure on our numbers there, the 1.945 million, you divide that by 23, it comes out to about $85,000. So I just wanted to make sure that that is the number that we're using for, I don't know what you guys call it in your finance office. We used to call it, in my industry, a fully burdened head count, meaning.
Call it an FTE.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Meaning it's not just the salary, it's a salary plus all the benefits. Right. And I guess the follow-up to that I was going to ask too is if it's harder to do this in a school system than it is in say the corporate world, right? Because on one hand, you take the cost of a school building, for example, or running the school building, you're dividing that out over the number of kids. It's not necessarily the number of employees, but there are, our whole HR department, I would say, is probably overhead for our FTEs, right? And I don't know what other things I haven't thought about that are also overhead. Now, I'm first of all, let me just say how thrilled I am to see, 23, a double-digit number, here, because it's been a long time coming, and it's probably still not quite enough. But at some point, you add 50 or 100 employees, you're going to need support staff at some point with those. So I don't know, are we including, do we have in our FTE number of 85K, does that include everything? I'm just trying to make sure that we're not, underestimating and putting ourselves in trouble down the road.
Having been in the government contracting world, I understand what he's talking about, and that was generally overhead. I mean, there was salary, there was benefits, and then there was overhead. And traditionally in that world, it was double the salary, all of that stuff. So, I mean, I understand exactly what Mr. Chewbacca is asking. And I think in the past where we have not been able to add many positions, it was probably a wash just in the turnover and lapse if we were off a little bit on that kind of thing. But with this many positions, I can see where it could become significant if we were to underestimate that and then go out years from, once you hire someone, you've got to add that in. So I understand what he's asking.
So he's asking about support staff to go along with those?
Everything, support staff, office space, heating and air, all the overhead that it takes to have a full-time employee. And I know that it's not going to be a perfect number, I realize.
Well, I would say this. You got to remember, we have almost 10,000 students in 20 buildings.
Sure.
I mean, 23 over 20 buildings. Not that everyone's going to get one teacher, but it's not something that I think would be an issue. We need teachers to teach kids.
No,
we just want to make sure we're accounting properly.
And let me say this
we don't
too.
have any surprises.
Right, and I don't think we need more. When it comes to aides, we have more aides than any school division per student in Virginia. Maybe we have a lot of aides, and so I don't think that we need to.
Well, and it's not just support staffing. Like every teacher you hire is going to need a workstation, for example. You may not have purchased that technology yet.
Technology, yeah, sure.
And again, it's because it's a large number of employees.
You got to remember too. We're hiring teachers because we need them for students.
Oh, I know.
And so the students are already here.
Yeah.
And that's why we're trying to build buildings. We're trying to build schools. And we need more space. And so the teachers are going with the kids.
Right.
That's the.
But I want to make sure that number is big enough.
Yeah, exactly. We just want to make sure it's big enough.
It covers all the other
needs. Here's what we have done. We've gotten requests from our schools. We've gone through the request, and as an administrative team, we have looked at the request to say this is what we feel that we actually do need.
Okay.
But it's not the number of employees, it's the cost per employee that we're concerned about.
I'm not questioning the 23.
Yeah, we're not questioning
If I have any question about the 23, I'd
Yeah.
probably say it's probably too low, and you would probably agree with me. I mean, I think we're trying to strike a balance
We'd like
here,
to have
but-
that 35 back.
Yeah.
For sure. But no, we're talking about the cost per employee, that we are fully accounting for the cost per employee is what we're asking about.
If we got 23 employees, 23 out of over 2,000 employees is not something that we can't incur the cost of to buy them a program.
Sure. I mean, that's fine, but if that extra overhead cost is even $1,000, that's what I'm asking.
Well,
Is
it's
it
a shot in
being
the dark
accounted
anyway,
for?
because we're saying $80-some thousand for each employee, and that is really a random. Unlike the world you guys may live in, where you pretty much know what you're going to pay someone when they come in. We don't.
Right.
Because we could hire a teacher right out of college on step 0. We could hire one on step 32. And so it could be less, it could be more.
No, I get
we
that.
Have to,
we're dealing with averages.
Yeah,
I get that.
it's an average. Yeah, and so we have to play with that as we move forward. And what we do is we keep that lapse information during the summer. And when folks quit, and then we hire someone and we look at it, and we keep that information and work off of that as well. And you make a good point, but we're fine with the number we've given in terms of the cost.
Okay.
We need more buildings, more space.
Yes. We need more everything.
That's the number one thing. We need more space to put the kids, so then we can put these teachers.
Right.
And and then too, something to remember too, and I talked about this in the presentation, is the teachers that we lost are not the same teachers that we're hiring back.
Sure.
Okay? We are hiring several core teachers and maybe some elementary teachers for the increased number of students, but we're also looking at what are the programs needed for the future. Okay? That's why we've added coding teachers, cyber security teachers. We're adding teachers that are that students are demanding. And that's why we're looking at the Corps Cadet program. We're looking at STEM teachers for elementary schools. That's a group of teachers that we would like to hire, or some STEM teachers that actually can be a special in our elementary schools to take some of the burden off of the guidance counselors being a special, to actually then teach the kids. And it takes pressure off the teachers, because right now in elementary schools, teachers are having to teach all the technology in their own classroom. And then every week, kids go to a special for guidance, and which we think, okay, every other week would work. We need that guidance counselor working with kids who need the mental health stability. and plus, we need to continue to move forward. So I guess, you know, yeah, we're down 35 teachers. We want to hire
22 of them.
We want to
back,
hire
at least. Yeah.
teachers in terms of looking forward in the future and what it really
No.
does look like.
And your answer's fine. It's the answer you have to live with. We're just asking to make sure that, you know, that all of that has been accounted for. So.
Now, if we're getting 150 teachers, we might have to do some different calculations. All right? And so, yeah, that would have a significant impact on other things.
Any other questions or anything Mr. Kranz would like to add?
No, ma'am.
Good. I guess we can.
So, sorry.
That's all right.
I still have questions. I agree with Ms. Franklin about what the needs are, but in light of that, and we talked about this the last couple budget cycles, right? The needs-based budget, and I think the first year we kind of threw out a pretty big number and said this is what the needs were, right? And then I think in a subsequent year we tried to approach it more from a what can we realistically get? Where are we on this budget? Because if we're going to start going back to the needs-based,
right?
Right.
Well, it depends
then
on
should
what the
that
numbers,
23 be a 35?
Well, what's going to happen is this. Right now, we're at 6.1 request.
Yes, sir.
It's probably, if I had to guess, it's going to go up to at least 6.5 to 7.
Correct.
And our initial understanding from the Board of Supervisors is they have an additional 7.7.
We'll take it off.
And so if they want to give it all to us, we'll take it all. Of course, historically, that has not been the case.
40%.
And so, but I think we feel better about asking more this year because of such an increase in the county's revenue.
The revenue, yeah.
And asking for what we need.
I feel fine about asking for what we need in every year, and if that's 10 million, it's 10 million, you know, and then we deal with what we get. But I always say, if we don't ask, you don't get it. So
no, we're going to ask this year, yeah. So we're going to ask. That's fine.
Well, and we held back last year, so
Yeah,
I think we go for it this year.
Yeah.
So do we increase that 23 to 35 at the same time?
No, I don't think so, because I don't think we need 35 right now. We've done an evaluation of what we actually think we need through our instructional department and operations, and we really do think that's what we need.
Okay, then I misunderstood you from earlier, but okay.
No, we're down 35 teachers and up 200 some students.
Yeah.
But at this point, I don't think we actually need 35 teachers. Okay?
And we have to also be, again, conscientious about it, and that's why very important to show up at Board of Supervisors meeting. We would like to see everyone here too, obviously, but almost like going there more important, because there are supervisors think that rolling back the tax rate will be a good thing to do. So, you know, that will happen or not happen. We still have to wait and see. But I think that will be a probably very silly or stupid thing to do at this time when we have all those needs, and finally they have actually substantial revenue that we can do things in the school side. But, you know, I think lobbying or advocacy or keep asking what are needs and remind them that we have needs, capital needs too, the buildings, I think very important.
Yeah, if the tax rate was rolled back, we're dead in the water. We get nothing, no raises, no money. We'd forfeit the money from the state. Right. It'd be pretty detrimental to our school division. So that's one thing that cannot happen.
Yeah.
Right.
So we have to advocate that.
Yes, so please, please, please come out and talk to the Board of Supervisors. They need to hear your voices.
And email them too.
Yes.
They need both.
Stop them in the store,
Yeah,
gas
that's
station,
right.
wherever.
Catch them on the,
Well, and
Keep talking.
as I've said before, I truly think there's a whole group of the community that don't know that that's what they need to do.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, right or wrong, the group about the redistricting, you know, that's why I stepped out to just say, you need to go to the Board of Supervisors.
That's
You
right.
need to share your concerns of
That
wanting
needs building.
new buildings in our community, because a few voices will not get it. And, you know, that's one thing that I've seen a lack of in our community is people turning out and sharing their voices, whether it's because they don't feel like they can, whether it's because they're afraid it's going to haunt them, for whatever reason. They've got to start doing it. And that's what I said. You have got to do it. You have got to get your friends and family and say, you know, this is what we want as a community, and we feel like we are due. Everybody else has gotten it. It is our turn. So get out there and say it.
Bring your children, have them say it.
That's right.
That's right.
Kids but they feel like here is where they need to speak it, but really, and I just don't think a lot of community members understand how local politics work.
Yeah, because our hands are essentially tied. And you're going to go into the redistricting here in a minute, and that will explain how our hands are tied.
And the redistricting is something that's, it's, you know, it's something that hits home with folks, and and you know, we're going to be making proposals, but these proposals, especially in the phase 2, could really have a huge impact on Christiansburg. But I've heard one of the Christiansburg Board of Supervisors members say that we have to use the capacity that has been built in other areas. So basically what they're saying is move kids out of Christiansburg to these other areas. And do we agree with that?
No.
No. I don't agree with it.
No.
However, at the end of the day, we do want kids in schools and not trailers. And so it's going to be, you know, it's going to be up to them. Do we make schools, build more schools in Christiansburg, make them bigger so we can keep everyone there, or are we going to have to do things more creative? It's up to
It's the Board of Supervisors who need to hear your voice.
Yeah.
Well, and for me, that's what I was going to say, that whatever Board of Supervisors might have made that comment, did they feel the same for the other areas of the county? No. Nobody felt that way for the other areas of the county.
Exactly.
Why do they feel that way about Christiansburg? I mean, it's just not right. So, you know, you need to get on Facebook. You need to make your announcements. Friends and family, go and speak your mind, because chitter chatter in here is not going to get it done. Okay? So,
what's going to happen is, for the, you know, when we propose the phase 2, we're going to bring you 2 options. And the first option is going to be keeping every kid in Christiansburg in their current schools. But it's going to also come with, this is what we need in terms of buildings.
Yes.
Okay, it's going to come with the cost. We're going to give you all that information. And if the Board of Supervisors say, no, we're not going to give you that, then we're going to have to go with option 2. But we're going to go to them first, you know, because I'm probably going to hear you guys say, yeah, we want option 1, we want buildings in Christiansburg, right?
And we've already said that before.
Right, exactly.
We're just trying a different tactic now.
Exactly. So, but at the end of the day, if it's not given,
I'm hoping the redistricting thing makes people mad, is what I'm hoping.
Oh, it will.
I'm hoping it fires them up, because that's what it's going to take. I mean, I want some irate, mad people.
Yep.
For many reasons. One, my child is going to be bussed down 81.
Exactly.
I won't even, I try not to get on from exit to exit, so I know exactly what you're talking about. And that your child is going to be that much further away from you and from your community where they sleep and eat every day. And the fact that Christiansburg is due for new schools.
That's right.
And nobody else in this county has had to move their child out of their home community to go to school because they didn't get a new school to hold the capacity.
That's exactly
And
right.
for anyone who says there are empty seats over here and over here, send your child there, somebody needs to run against them or vote them out. That's just ridiculous.
It is.
That is just ridiculous.
That's not the solution. We need to do what's best for students.
That's right.
And right now, the schools that they're in, Christiansburg Primary and Elementary, are so
Christiansburg High
overcrowded.
School.
Yeah, oh gosh, Christiansburg High School, they're so overcrowded. When we go to visit there, it's just disgusting. It's hard for the teachers to keep that good morale, to be teaching well and educating the kids while also being in this most gloomy, gross school.
I wouldn't necessarily say growth.
Yeah, I would say
I'm sorry, not gross like
because I think
filthy.
people take offense to that.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
No.
not gross like
They
filthy.
do the best they
No,
can do
they're
with
very-
what
yeah.
they've got.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
But
It's
crowded.
outdated.
They're
That's
crowded.
what
But
I look at.
outdated, exactly.
Yeah.
all right.
That's the number.
So with this said,
So do we need to have this conversation about
Yes.
redistricting?
yes,
Yeah.
we do. Yes.
It's coming.
All right. So here's the deal. With that said, just to remind you, we built Falling Branch. We built it at a 750 capacity school. We built it with the intention of moving students in Christiansburg to Falling Branch. All right, and this is what this proposal will do. It will be kids in Christiansburg this coming fall moving from CPS, CES to Falling Branch. Okay, and so the redistricting committee has been working, and they have.
Get one.
Well, that's okay. No, don't, please continue. All right, yeah.
You did him on that
Yeah.
growth.
Come on, give it to me.
So I guess what I'm saying is this first phase is not about taking kids in Christiansburg and sending them out of Christiansburg. It's keeping kids in Christiansburg and sending them to a brand new Falling Branch where we have plenty of space. And so the question is which neighborhood actually goes. And that's the that's the discussion and recommendation is coming from the redistricting committee as to who actually goes and why they made this recommendation. Mr. Kranz?
So good evening. As we talked about some meeting ago, we talked about the challenges that our district faces right now. If you look at our Christiansburg Elementary, which was phase 1 that we focused on, between our schools today, our current capacity is 1,570 seats of all those 4 schools. We have 1,766 students in those buildings today. It's 115% of the building's capacity. You look at the seats that we're short, and you don't want to be at 100%, because once you're at 100%, as your building needs changes. A case in point is we have an elementary school that's added 32 students since the 1st of January. Those students don't come from our traditional students. So as they come in, and there's challenges that our educators face, they need to have that space to adjust to meet the needs of the student population that's there. 85% is traditionally the number you want to be from a capacity standpoint. You'll build it to the functional capacity, but you want to leave that 15% differential to address the needs that that building's going to have. Because with any projection, and while a projection goes through a lot of scientific parts to it, it's still a guess. Okay? No matter how well you do it, no matter what data I use, it's still a guess. And so you're going to be up and you could be down. But if I'm up and I'm at 100%, all of a sudden we have problems in that now we're not putting in the kids in the right ratios that we need or not providing them the services. Our K-3, we get extra money from the state if we maintain a ratio of 19-to-1 or less. We start getting above that ratio, there's state funding that we lose. Okay? When we looked at the process and they had a committee, you can see the things we've done in the timeline. We had to meet, and you've read it. It's been a very open, transparent process. It's been posted on the webpage. The committee's been actively involved. It wasn't one that was done easily. Everyone there has been a parent. I've been a parent. My kids now are all grown, and I got the grandchildren. But we've all been through it as parents, and it's a difficult thing because my child went to school A, and I'd like to see him remain in school A. I understand that as a parent. But as a district, we have to align where our assets are located at with what the needs that we as a district have to address. If, just keep this in mind, if you said, Tommy, go add on to CES and CPS. By the time we do the design work, by the time we bid it out and construct it, you're almost looking at 18 to 24 months. And we're there today. Christiansburg and CPS have a capacity for about 600 students combined. We're over 1,000. And it's projected to continue to grow. The schools today use 10 portables. Those portables are very old. They weren't bought brand new. A refurbished portable will have a life of 15 years. We're well past 15 years on all 5 of those portables. Our students who are in the portables, we're coming out, there's no overhang, so if it's raining, we're getting drenched. It's not the same as a regular school building. And so we have to do something to address the needs of those students. The redistricting criteria that we use was exactly what we've discussed together. The main point I want to make is this. On the bus side, and talking to transportation, who's looked, and we've identified in the report the buses that would be impacted, and there's 4 buses. 1 bus may go on I-81, not all. Okay?
How many buses do we have that go on I-81 now?
Eddie, that's your question. I know the 2 we've got permanently that go up and down I-81.
We haven't go to Roanoke every day.
We go to Roanoke every day.
We go to Roanoke every day, yes.
So the recommendation of the committee, and what I've done is given you a map, and as we go through the process with phase 2, we'll update the map so that you will have, in my book, I got a copy of all the maps, okay? And that's what we'll have, so a picture can tell you 1,000 words. The recommendation is to redistrict CPS and CES students that live west of Mud Pike Road to the westernmost school line of Falling Branch, and we'll show that on the map in a second. That's 122 students that in K-5 there today. Redistrict CPS and CES students that live east of I-81 in the Smith Creek area. That's 30 students that live in that area. The total's 152 students. Rising 5th graders would be allowed to remain at CES so long as they provide their own transportation. Our current bus numbers are 31, 21, 90, and 52. And we'll gladly provide you any additional information you want about those bus numbers and their routes. The map, what we've done is, on your first map that's in your book, the area that's shaded there in red, that is currently a CES CPS zone. What we're proposing is the area shaded in red with the lines would become a Falling Branch, those students would be rezoned to Falling Branch. What the committee did is we took, and you can see on your map how we divided up the map into what's called planning blocks. And so you'll see PB and then a number, that's the planning block number, and then the number below the PB is the number of students that live in that area in a tent.
Are you talking about these little teeny?
Right. I couldn't blow it up any more than that in that book. We've got on here, Eddie, show them the bigger map. You can see the bigger
Could you give us magnifying
map.
glasses next time?
Ma'am?
Could you give us magnifying glasses?
I wish I could make it bigger and easier. But, okay?
Can't see this.
No, but that's if you look, Ms. Penny, at the bigger map where we did the numbers, you would see how many students we picked up per each block and what that total is. If you need, for informational purposes, so planning block 123 is 30, planning block 124 is 32.
Yeah, I can't see the one. You can't see those anyway.
No.
Which one's 123?
I know where they're just on the bottom.
How about this? Do this. Go through each one and point to it so we can write in there how many students are in each block. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Can you do it? Do you have a pointer for up there?
No, I don't have a pointer. But I mean,
or bring it up.
Wing it.
Bring it up here closer.
How's that?
So you can just write it with a pencil right on it.
All right. So this bottom one is planning block 123. That's 30 students. Okay.
30 elementary students.
Okay.
So all elementary. That's it.
This block is planning block 122. It has 64 students. This block.
Tom,
is,
you need to do that twice because I'm just looking at it back here.
On that 122, and there's 64. No, there's 64.
So ours
Right
upside
here.
down to what?
Could you,
No, it's right here.
are you
Am I on the wrong page?
You're on the wrong page.
Yeah, next
aware
page,
enough
where you
to-
said the red stripes were earlier.
There you
So
go.
here's 123, and then here we start with 123.
So this area right here, what area is that? Just because I guess I'm not
We refer to that
abreast.
as Smith Creek.
Yeah, that's fine. I know where Smith
Yeah.
Creek is.
Route 81, folks. Show them where Route 81 is.
Here's Route 81 right
That
Okay.
helps
Right
you.
there.
All right.
Okay.
That just gives me a
Right, so
idea of
there-
where we're at. Right.
here.
And I think the first page
The
shows
first
that
page is the existing.
just the polling branch and the rest of the green is all
It says
CCS
all
and
CES,
CES.
CPS cadets.
Here's the 81.
And I mean, I live on Pilot Road. My kids would fall in branch, but they did the horseshoe thing around.
All right, so
You want to go
then-
through the other numbers?
Yeah, we'll
We got
go down the road. So we said 124,
Here.
which is 32.
Wait, planning block 124
Yes, ma'am.
32 students.
is 32 students, okay?
122 is.
All right.
I know, I got them. I can see
Here's
them.
120.
I can see them. I can read them.
And that's 32. This
Bring the
one's
right glasses.
64.
Should have mine on.
This one's 30.
Some cheaters.
That's the block. Yes, it's the whole block. It's 30. Okay. All right, planning block 72, which is right here,
20.
is 23. Okay. Planning block
This one right here.
72, right there,
Okay.
is 23. And then the northern one there, the western one, this planning block, which is 71, is 3 students. Okay?
Okay, so this would be the mud pike area here?
We refer to, right, this is North Pike coming this way,
Well, I guess that's closer to the.
and then Smith
I mean,
Creek
it's
this way.
closer to
This is
subdivision.
81.
These are on the outskirts.
Identify Christiansburg Middle School. That helps too for
All right,
everyone.
so when you're looking at the map, here's Christiansburg Middle School right here.
So basically, it's everything behind Christiansburg Middle School.
Correct. And Christiansburg Elementary and Christiansburg Primary are right here.
Right, those red
Oh,
dots.
the red, all the
Where
red
the
dots.
two
Red dots, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And then the star is Christiansburg High.
Yep.
So what is this little green footed area out here by the orange with this right here? Where is that?
Eddie, come here, I'm gonna let you answer that one.
Come on over,
You
Eddie.
got a reference for that, this area right here.
Right here.
It's 81.
No, it's over this way. No, that's,
Right.
it's right here.
Okay, so what would this be?
It's
That's gonna be,
Yeah.
It's almost Eastmont, close to Eastmont.
Yeah, that's Bravo.
Cambria.
Cambridge, yeah.
Now, one thing, when we didn't get a chance, we just finished it. But when we look at our students, so here is a scatter graph of the CPS, CES students.
Right.
Now, each dot does not necessarily represent one because they're bigger and so they'll be some of them. But it gives you an idea of where our student population
Yes.
is at.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Right.
So you can see
I'm
we
good.
did.
I'm good, I saw
Yeah.
it.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So that's a more concentrated area right here. That's why.
You can see
That's why they kept that.
Right.
Yeah, okay, that makes
But
sense.
we're talking about primary.
Right.
So where does this fall in range? So Palm Branch is right here. So, right.
Where's Palm Branch?
It is
The red square, right next to the.
Right here, the teeny tiny one? Okay.
It's a little blurry, but at least you can kind of, can make out the streets and stuff better, yeah. You can't read the numbers, but you can see it better.
now. What you want to look at, one of the last things you want to look at, you know, on the front end, you want to make sure you got good enrollment numbers. And you want to make sure you got good projections, because the worst thing to do is do a redistricting, and then because that's not enough, you're going to do a second phase. In phase 2, we'll talk about, so I'm not talking about phase 2. I'm talking about doing phase 1 and what we're trying to accomplish. All right? And to do that, you need good projections. Also, you want to look at where are we going to be after we do the move. We do the rezoning. And so you can see we're going from CPS, CES with a capacity of 608 students. This was as of September 30th numbers, 973 students. It's a little bit higher today. We move 152 students. We're at 821, still well over capacity.
So we're still 200 students over capacity at CPS and CES even after making this move.
And that's on 100%. If you go 85, we're 300 plus students over capacity, even after we make the move.
And just to be clear, when you're talking functional capacity, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. Falling Branch has a capacity of 740 students. After the redistricting, they would be at 687. So they're sitting with 53 seats available if you stay at 100%. But at 85%, they're sitting at 58 students over. But when we look at our 10-year enrollment, when we look at all the factors, we believe that that's a sound and it works. Okay? Now, when you look at the other things you want to talk about is, do you change the demographics of the schools when you do the redistricting? Because you don't want to go from one set of demographics to another set of demographics. And so what we found, for example, is CES is currently at a 48% free and reduced. With the rezone, they would see a change of 24 students, and they'd be right at 51%. CPS goes from 40% to 43%, a drop of 13 students. So yeah, the percentage slightly goes up, but the number of students being served are actually going down. At Falling Branch, we go from 44% actually down to 40, even though their numbers are going up. And the increase is 28 students, but because we've put a larger population there, just the rules of mathematics, we're getting a lower percentage. But overall, and that was a concern at the committee side that our principals had. But once they saw the analysis, once we looked at where everything was at, they were comfortable with that recommendation on option 3, that it worked out, and it worked out fine. Now, one other thing that's been discussed tonight is, well, what about the students that live out but attend in? Okay? And there's 53 students between CPS and CES. But in the CPS CES zone today, that live in that zone, 159 students go out of zone. They have the largest number of students that attend outside of the CPS, out of their school zone. Usually you'll see those numbers correlate more equally together. So, you know, we have a plan there where basically we'll let it age itself out. But if you brought everybody, as some districts do, say, you know what, we're just going to stop all the transfers. Everybody tomorrow goes back to their home school. Guess what? CES, CPS with no changes would add 100 students tomorrow. And the buildings can't accommodate it. So the rezoning that we're proposing in phase 1 says we know we have an overcapacity problem. We know that building a building takes time. We know that you can't fix it all in one step. So this is a step to lower their capacity, utilize the assets that we've got at Falling Branch. Remember, we added 18 classrooms at Falling Branch. It's a beautiful building. Utilize the assets we have at Falling Branch. Now, phase 2 is we still are facing a capacity challenge at CES. We're facing a capacity challenge at CHS. CHS, because of the size of the classrooms, if you look at it on a square foot basis and computing your functional, it has a capacity of 866 students. We've got over 1,100 in the building today. And it's going to grow. The increase that we're seeing in CES, CPS is going to flow to CMS, and it's going to flow to CHS. When we look at the next 10 years, we're seeing significant growth at CHS over the next 10 years. There's actually no indication that that's going to slow down on us. And so the challenges we have in that building are going to continue to be great. That's why we looked at building a new CHS and building a new elementary school that would have alleviated some of the overcrowding at CPS and CES by addressing our northwestern portion of the zone up near where we're at with Bellevue, and doing a combination between Bellevue and that pocket. And then the high school would have allowed us to build the school with the capacity and the space that it could accommodate 1,300. And depending on the dollars, you may go 1,300 to 50. That's something we're looking at that we'll give y'all back at a later date. But 1,300 to 1,500 students, functional capacity, trying to stay at that 85% mark. But if that doesn't materialize, the students are coming. We have 5 portables today at CHS. In all likelihood, if we have significant growth, we're going to be bringing in modular pods, and that lower parking lot's going to go away. And we're going to change the whole look of that campus, or start to change it significantly. And that's dollars that once we spend it, I always treat capital dollars as 20-year money, even though I know they're not always funded with bond money, but I use that analogy. If we spend those dollars on those modulars, then guess what? They're gone for 20 years. And we always got the needs on our capital side far greater than what we get. So, any questions?
Got one. Well, it's kind of more of a statement. Why would we even consider Christiansburg High School as even thinking about a 1,300 capacity school when we're at 1,100 now? And that was the fight that I heard when we were building Blacksburg, no disrespect, but that they had to have the 1,500 capacity because of growth. And, you know, I think for me, that's the thing. I know we have to do something. I get it. But the thing that really irritates me is the schools that we've built in other areas and made them bigger. I've argued the fact that that's what we need for the future. We need to be able to have growth patterns because what's happened to Christiansburg in the past is the schools weren't built big enough when they built them. And when we did the renovation to Fallen Branch, I made the comment, I'm all good with it as long as, oh, well, you know, we did that for you, and so we're going to move on. And we're going to do these things because we fixed Fallen Branch. That was my concern, and kind of that's what's happening. So and I get that, you know, you got to do what you got to do, and I understand for students' sake. But it happened to Auburn many years ago. They pieced them together, and then they had to wait another 20 years to get what they had coming, and should have gotten many, many years before. So, you know, the county didn't do justice to Christiansburg many years ago. They built schools that were too small. So now it's time for them to step up to the plate and do what's right. And granted, I'm so thankful for Fallen Branch. I love Fallen Branch. My kids went to Fallen Branch. And I think anybody would be, honored to go there. CPS and CES are great schools too. And I understand my granddaughter was in a class that was about 10 by 10. So, hear all of it. But like I said, when we built Price's Fork, oh, well, they're going to have that growth pattern. And it's okay if we leave them sitting because they're going to fill it up. Auburn High School, oh, well, it's okay. Auburn Middle School, you know what? They're going to need it because the growth is coming for the future. Going to leave it. It's great. Okay, Blacksburg High School, the same thing. We took that in consideration for every single school we've built, and it's been okay. But now, from what I understand, that we're hearing, oh, well, we did this and fixed this school, so fill it up. Well, why is it that nobody else had to fill up their school? Eastern Montgomery's not to capacity. None of the other schools in any other areas of the county are to capacity, but they expect us not to get a new school, and we're supposed to fill up the one that we put a Band-Aid on.
So let me give you some numbers with that. The reason we're saying 1,300 is that was the original number for that possible 70 million. We need to go back and look at that and refine that.
Absolutely.
All right, let me tell you, here's the deal. Yeah, you're right. We're over 1,100 now. 1,300 is not big enough.
No.
All right, 1,300 is big enough if you redistrict, if Christiansburg High School students are redistricted to Auburn. And I'm just telling you, Auburn High.
We're not going to do that.
Right. It's big enough. But guys, you got to listen to me, okay?
No.
All right. It's all. I mean, we're going to ask now. Yeah. So at the end of the day, we need a 1,500 school to keep everybody
happy.
That's there.
Right. Yeah.
All right.
But if we don't get that,
but if we
the
don't
Board of Supervisors,
get that for the Board of Supervisors,
I get that. But that we had the same conversation when it was Blacksburg time, and we fought for it. It's time to fight for Christiansburg at this point.
So,
you know?
So Christiansburg,
we agree with that.
Come get it.
But I'm
Absolutely.
just saying,
we're all for it.
Instead of saying, oh, well, if we don't, gee, I mean.
We're ready to do that, but the people have to do that.
But it's just now coming out for the people to know they have to do that. We have to give it that opportunity for them to also come out and speak their opinion and have their voice. It's just now hit the table. We didn't have a roof collapse to where it automatically hit the community in an immense, immediacy. We didn't have that. So people don't realize what's on the table. They don't understand what's going on. You've got to give them time. That's why I said
well, they will understand
it's a
when we
start
send
now.
them letters saying, option 1,
that's right.
1,500 capacity building.
Right.
You can stay in Christiansburg. Option 2, you go to Eastmont or Auburn
Right.
High. And that's going to get some folks' attention.
Absolutely.
So, and then we're going to have the price tag for a 1,500 and a 1,300.
Correct.
All right, and we're going to have a price tag for a new elementary school and additions to current elementary schools. All right, so that's in that phase 2 piece.
But I guess at my point, why would we even consider a 1,300 if that's a problem to begin with? Why would we even put that option on the board?
Because Christiansburg Board of Supervisors have said, send kids from Christiansburg and fill the seats up at Eastmont and Auburn. They've said that's what they want to do. That, we need to be fiscally responsible, was their words, to send kids to those areas.
And see, for me, that's the first I've heard that.
Well, you can go back and watch the last Board of Supervisors meeting, I believe. It was a Board of Supervisors meeting where they brought in someone from
Davenport. It was right before Christmas.
And they had a very long conversation about us that we didn't know about. And so.
Because they didn't tell us.
So, anyway, so that was brought up then. That was suggested by a Christiansburg board member at that point. So that's why, I think that, hey, we can present, the one that we know Christiansburg folks want, but we're going to have to present another two if the Board of Supervisors do not do what needs to be done to raise the revenue to actually build a high school that is big enough for everyone in Christiansburg.
Yeah. We needed to complete our projections on enrollment, which we've done now. We're 10 years out. Yeah. Okay. Now with that, we can run different scenarios and make computations. And the meeting that Dr. Myers referred to was on December 17th, that the Board of Supervisors had a presentation from Davenport. And that's where
right. And in that presentation, they talked about their debt capacity.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
So let's talk a little bit about that. Their capacity until 23 or 24 is borrowing $70 million. where 70 million isn't going to get us anything but a high school. It's not even get us to elementary
Correct.
school, and that might
And
just
that's
be
a 13.
that might just be the 1,300 capacity high school.
Right.
So that's what that was being said. We need more than 70
That's
million.
where that number came from.
And so to get more than 70 million, at the end of the day, there's, you know, we're going to give them options through the PPEA.
Right, right.
Okay? All right? But of course, the board of supervisors, they're worried about their
Credit rating.
their bond ratings.
Right.
Okay? But we're going to give them options too, that they can build the 1,500 capacity school, and we can build what we need, and we can, you know, we're going to give those options.
Yes, sir.
All right? And so, but at the end of the day, you know, it seemed like, you know, just from that presentation the other day, that it seemed like there were some folks,
Right.
and it was the Christiansburg board members who were the ones that were against doing it. So, I mean, that's yeah.
Others have portions.
So that's what I
that
was
they
going to
represent
say. I mean,
other areas.
they're just like us. Their districts involve other. I mean,
It's
you
just
know.
one member, but still
Yeah.
a one vote.
So, I
That's
mean,
what tips it the
yeah,
other
so that's,
way.
I mean, it's just a reality of where we are.
But I think to Ms. Bond's original question on Falling Branch, and if I understand her question, her concern, because I had the same concern popped up into my mind, and I thought that Mr. Krantz answered it, so I just want to make sure that the idea that that we built out Falling Branch, but now we're going to fill it maybe too far beyond, but like not leave any room for growth. And I thought what I heard him say is that they've done their projections for at least 10 years out, and they're comfortable with the numbers they've given us at least 10 years. Is
As
that
we're
correct?
looking at phase 1 and phase 2.
Okay.
We're comfortable. If it stayed at phase 1, I'm still comfortable with that number. But a phase 2 helps a little bit more. So it's phase 1 stands by itself. Okay?
Sure.
And on our projections, we won't go up to 100% full.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Where we're at today will probably be the max, is when we look at 10 years out.
Okay. Does that make sense, Ms. Bond?
Yeah, I'm just making I mean, because before we added on to Fallen Branch, it was the fullest school
Sure.
in the county.
But they had trailers.
Absolutely, that's my whole point. That is my whole point, is the fact that it was built too small when it opened. And CPS was built too small when it opened, and we hadn't had any elementary schools built since that. So we've been done injusticely the whole time. That's my whole thing. And for whoever wants to take it and leave with it and go back, I don't care, but that's how it's been. That's why it makes me so irate to even think that's what we've got to do once again.
No, we don't have to.
No,
do
I don't
that,
think so,
and
yeah.
we should not be doing that.
You're
because
exactly
that
right.
makes
You're
right, Penny.
absolutely
When they
no
built
sense.
CPS, they built it just because, but you think, it's not even a full school. I mean, it was when I went to, CPS opened the first year when I was in second grade. So it was intended for, up on the hill, you went, I think, down below kindergarten to second, then you went third to fifth up on the hill. So essentially, you're talking one school split.
Exactly.
You're not even talking two full schools. You're talking one
Correct.
split in half. So at the time in Christiansburg, we had Bellevue, one school, and then they built Fallen Branch. I mean, and like I said, huh?
You had Bethel then, too. It had
Right, and
closed
Bethel
down.
out
That's
in,
right.
but they went to Auburn. That was an Auburn fed school. It wasn't a Christiansburg fed school.
True.
Okay, so that kind of didn't count.
Yeah.
But for us in
Right,
Christiansburg is where
right.
I'm coming from. But, so we've never had the elementary schools that we were supposed to have to begin with. So.
And that's what we're trying to fix with
I
the
get
new
that,
elementary
but I'm
school,
still
right?
got to steam off, okay? Because it's just like I said, whoever wants to take it back to the Board of Supervisors, and I hope somebody does, and speak their mind, because somebody better stand up and start saying something, because all I hear every day, I mean, I see people all day long in my line of work, and I hear, oh, well, you know, these parts get that, and we never get anything. Well, then open your mouth. Go and say something. Start standing up, because if you don't stand up for what you want, we're not going to get it.
Right.
Well, the reason we add the Falling Branch is just to get rid of the trailers. It's not necessarily we expand that school to replace all the other
Exactly.
schools.
And-
So only reason I think little redistricting isn't, discussion is just to get a little bit of the crowd away. it's not going to solve, I mean, I don't think it's solving in phase 1 or phase 2. Still, the elementary school need it there because,
Yeah, we can't, I mean,
yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
it's
you know,
absolutely
so,
right.
and the question is, you know, you want the crowded school continue till whenever the money is there to build an elementary school, or have a little less crowded CES, CPS till you get the elementary school. You know what I'm saying?
Sure do.
I mean,
I
we
get
still
it.
need to
I got
get
it.
that elementary school.
Completely, I got it.
You know, which way you put.
No doubt.
Can I bring us,
Okay.
can I
But
bring
to
us
do
back to
that-
phase 1?
But to do that is at the cost of moving children.
That's correct. Families,
Moving
gonna be
children.
disrupted.
That if we built a new school in a couple of years, there wouldn't be a problem. So we disrupt the families, and then we're gonna ask folks, okay, we're gonna grandfather your 5th graders in, but you're gonna have to get them there. That's discrimination, just out and out, because they are families who cannot afford to, or work schedules would not allow that. That's just absolutely bizarre to even think that we would ask folks to bring their kids to and from school.
Well, it's, you know,
It's what?
well, I was gonna say, you know, it's a transportation cost to doing that, and so we have to figure out what that meant.
I saw that too, and I was gonna at least ask the question of what would it cost for us to do that.
But I don't think we can wait 2 years.
Well, let's go.
Wait, if these are my kids that I'm gonna have to be shifting and sending them down 81, I don't care how many more we're doing right now, it is what it is, and maybe we need to look at that. Because, as Goonan said, we added on to Falling Branch to get rid of the mobile units there. So, we need to build in Christiansburg, new elementary school, do whatever we need to do to CES and CPS so that the mobile units go away and not move these families around.
All right, well, Ms. Franklin, let me say this. That is not exactly the case. When we added on to Falling Branch, it was to get rid of the trailers, but it was also to add capacity beyond the trailers. And the idea the entire time was to redistrict some of the kids from CPS and CES that is way overcrowded into Falling Branch. We have over 200 seats in Falling Branch, and we've got to move some kids there now. I mean, for next year.
And you view this as a permanent move?
Yes, this is a
We
permanent
are not going to
correct.
send them back in a few years
No.
when we build a new elementary school.
No, this is a permanent move.
Oh, I understand
Because,
that.
and just, let me say this, just sending the kids to Falling Branch next year, this is 130 kids, will take CPS and CES's school population down to where it was last year at this time. That's how many kids have moved into CPS, CES.
Which is still overcrowded.
Which is still overcrowded. So we don't have a choice, but we're keeping kids in Christiansburg, in the Christiansburg zone, in this phase 1. And we got to find some neighborhoods, and this is the ones that we've chosen through the redistricting committee to move to Falling Branch. We can't have a building that is empty, and you know, with 200 and some capacity, over 200 seats, and then have one where we're over 400 over capacity.
Right.
You know, that's just an injustice too. And so, I mean, asking students to move from the CES CPS zone to Falling Branch, wherever it is not unreasonable.
So when Price's Fork was built and we needed to move students there, one of the biggest concerns, and Mr. Baca, you will remember, was taking kids across 460. That was like
Remember it
the
too.
most horrible thing in the world.
And
was
everybody
taking kids
blew
across
up.
460. Yes. So now we're not talking about just taking them across 460. We're talking about putting them on 81.
That's right.
So what you all need to do then is go back and take a look at these neighborhoods and make suggestions to which neighborhoods move, if you don't want these moved. This is what the redistricting committee has come up with as the best neighborhoods to move. If it's not these neighborhoods, then we need to find about 100 to 150 kids somewhere else in these other little planning zones to move to Falling Branch. Right?
Correct.
We need to build new schools, plain and simple.
But I think that was one of the things that didn't work with the redistricting when we were looking at prices for, is because there were so many students, and I believe we even had this conversation about they were passing schools to go to another one.
Yeah, I mean,
and that was one of the reasons, but that's essentially what we're doing here. We're taking from here and taking from here. And
let me explain that one. Let's get in a little more detail there. The kids who are at KIPS that are on Brush Mountain already do go past 2 schools to get to KIPS. They didn't want to go past a 3rd school to get to Prices 4.
But I'm just saying.
But they do currently go past 2 schools to get to KIPS.
Right. And part of that's because of the way they're all
the way
kind
they
of
did
right
KIPS.
there.
It's the way they
Exactly.
did the
I
KIPS
mean,
test.
you have to pass those. All those schools are right there
Right
together.
behind.
So that's kind of a little bit apples and oranges there. Geography is a part
exactly.
of it. But, you know, and I get it. I understand. Completely got it. I completely understand why. My point is, it's just, I'm just offended that we have to make these decisions when we did have to build, or not have to, when we chose to build Auburn and Blacksburg. We made so many allowances. When we fixed up the middle school, even though it was needed, our students had to go somewhere, and we had to make it the best. We found the money.
Right.
You know, we redid the gym, we painted, we put new trailers or double wides out back, and they were nice. They weren't used old dilapidated things. They were nice. We paved areas for them to go on. We also had people, I don't want to call them security guards, but we had people that were there at the school all day, every single day. We paid for 3 years to make sure, because there were so many students at that school, which I questioned because I didn't think it was that dangerous of an area why we needed security in those schools.
Right.
But it was insisted upon by the Blacksburg representatives on the board at the time that their students had to come over here, and they felt it was needed. My point to all of this is, how did we find all that money to do all that, but we can't find the money to do what we need to do?
They raised taxes 12 cents in 1 year.
I get
and they
it,
had,
but we did all
they
that
got
before we raised taxes.
4
We didn't
people.
raise taxes to fix Christiansburg Middle School for the students to come over here.
Well, yeah, that was before my time. I don't know
It
what the
didn't happen.
history of that was.
We didn't raise taxes until
But
we did
can-
119 million to do a middle school and a high school and or 2 high schools.
But we used funds.
Lived that
to
in
do
my
that.
sleep.
Funds, there were funds used.
Yeah, the county
to do
provided
that.
funds to do it.
Right.
That's right. But we found money.
Well, the county found money.
The county
We
found
don't have
money.
any money.
Somebody
For real.
found some money somewhere, and that was a lot of money.
Yeah, it was.
So for the next meeting, what we need is, for phase 1, we really need to focus on this, because this is something
Right.
we got to do for this coming school year, okay? CPS and CES has too many kids in it. Baldwin Branch has empty classrooms everywhere, all right? So we need to figure out, you know, are you going to go with the committee's suggestions as to the zones, the blocks that are going to go there? Or are you going to give us some other blocks to think about? If you need bigger maps or more information or some way to do it, look at it differently,
Just call me.
just ask Mr. Cranston, he'll supply you with that information. Okay? And so, and we'll discuss it again at the work session on the 19th. Is that what it is?
You sure we don't need this meeting next week?
What's that?
Chief, you sure we don't need this meeting next week?
It's for budget, not for redistricting.
All right. Do you want these back?
You want these back so you can?
Yes,
add
I
them
will,
up?
and then I'll keep updating.
Oh, I wrote on mine.
I did
Let's
too.
keep these.
You keep it, and then I'll
Here.
give you the map. And y'all-
Yeah, I'd
I
rather
don't want to keep it.
update.
Yeah, put your name on it.
Okay.
Put your name on it.
Yeah, there's no sense in making more.
Yeah.
Don't, like, you know, draw a sad face on mine or nothing, because I was,
Smiley face.
just had to get my point
Thanks,
across
Sally.
to somebody else in here.
It's a monster of some kind.
Smiley face.
Go, Jim.
I've been waiting on this one. Do what? I know. Yeah, you the devil's advocate. I can tell that already.
Population.
You have a headache.
I would like to get a copy of that one for sure.
That's it tonight.
Yes, that's, yes, that makes sense.
You need a pen?
We're on the same team, everybody. We all agree. So-
When you told me
We
about
need
that,
new school.
that just made my blood pressure.
Tomorrow.
Yes,
Well,
tomorrow,
we know-
yesterday, really.
Yes, you are kidding.
Everybody got it. We'll send it to you. We'll send you. We will send y'all the that portion of the board of supervisors. Remember the meeting, so y'all can watch
Yeah,
that.
I watched.
Okay. Yeah, some of y'all have already watched it. I have. But
No, I'm
okay.
just going to ask you here in the next meeting.
So,
That's what they say.
all right. I have no idea where we are.
We are in unfinished business.
All right. Unfinished business.
Board members, any unfinished business?
I agree.
Unfinished business.
No unfinished business? How about a new business?
Okay, so I have some. So we heard tonight concerns about Friends Elementary School, and technology is moving out, and the question was, what's going to happen with that building once technology moves out? Because if you didn't get it, the big concern is that that building will become a throwaway, just like the Christiansburg Institute campus was, and that just cannot happen. I've expressed that before. So now there's a real concern what's going to happen with that building.
Okay, so there's a lot of steps to get through to plan for the new Christiansburg High School. And that planning, would involve that question, all right? As most of y'all know, we are trying to consolidate all of our operations into the old Christiansburg Middle School. We have already food services there, warehouse is there.
Yes, sir.
Technology is going there, which is from the Friends building. Facilities at some point will go there, and hopefully transportation. And so it's consolidating everything and making use of a building that we actually heat and cool, and it's in pretty decent condition for that type of operation. Makes sense, for us. And then hopefully surplus the Cambria property. So yes, technology would leave that building, the Friends building, and go to old CMS. And so what happens long term in the planning of the new school, I have no idea. But in the short term, we do have some possible uses for it. Actually looking at space the other day with Mr. Deibler, and for the Corps Cadet program, we'll be able to use part of that building too for that program. So it will be kids using it for extracurricular activities. And then two, we may need it when we do the renovation and new build of Christiansburg High School. We might need it for classrooms. There are classrooms in that building. So we could actually use it during the renovation if we run short of classrooms. So that's a couple of uses that could happen in the next 5 or 6 years. So we'd need it at least through that time, And then what happens after that, we'll just have to have discussion and dialogue on what it is, what it looks like, and what we're going to use it for. Is it part of the renovation at Christiansburg High School? Does it become something that we can use, or not? So we'll have to look at that down the road. But there's definitely no reason for anyone to be concerned at this point, because there's so many decisions to be made that's going to take several years to make.
Okay. So at this point, I hear you, but at any point with the history, that's the big issue for the folks in the African American community. For many of us, I did my first 2 years in that building, is that to make sure that building never is destroyed, never. It is a part of Montgomery County's history. And with that said, I know Mr. Goodwin raised this point when technology was getting ready to go in there. And there was a small marker to say, Friends Elementary School. But it needs to be on that building that this was Friends Elementary School, and that's what that building historically was for the African American children across Montgomery County. And, you know, you say there's classrooms in there. Those are small classrooms. And
What would have to happen is if, you know, if we do decide to keep that building, it would have to be upgraded. I mean, it needs new windows, roof. I mean, it needs new everything in it. So that would have to be part of the upgrade. And then what would it be used for would have to be considered. And there's probably 1,000 things it could be used for if we, you know. And so that's just, but it would, we couldn't just let it just sit there and not be used because.
well, absolutely.
Yeah, it would deteriorate.
Right. And I don't think anyone, that's the whole point, is to not let that building just go away through whatever means, right? Whether not being used, deteriorate, being demolished, whatever. So again, I would like to see that school with letters on it saying Friends Elementary School in some kind of way, recognizing what that building was or is. You know, it may be being used for something different, but originally this is what the building was. So.
Once we get technology out of there, that's not hard to do.
Okay.
And plan for that is by end of school year?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Okay.
What did we end up doing with the log cabin that was on the Auburn site when we built? Because that was another historic site for them as well. And, you know, we ended up having to do something with that. And I
Mr.
know a lot
Pauly?
of people were against that too.
Mr. Pauly?
Yeah,
I have no idea.
Right, so that was actually a big deal in
Yeah, it
Reiner.
was.
Yep.
There were a lot of people who lobbied against demolishing it. It was both originally the Grange, so it dates way, way back, and then it was also the site of the cannery around the World War II era, and actually it was still operational up until the time that we ultimately demolished it. Adjacent to that was a picnic shelter that was apparently erected by some prominent community folks, and there was a lot of feeling about that as well. And they were particularly, the members of the community were particularly dismayed when it was shown on the plans that it was demolished to make way for parking spaces. It wasn't even for building. But ultimately, that is what we did.
So we demolished it? I thought we moved it.
No, it's demolished.
Okay, so that's.
There was a plan, I think, once upon a time to move it, but it was full of asbestos.
Oh.
We managed to salvage like some of the stones from the chimney and some of the logs, because it was a log cabin, so we were able to save some of the logs, but it was at extra expense. People came in with those like hazmat suits and sprayed it down, and now I don't know where those wound up.
Gotcha.
They're somewhere, I think they're in the ag department somewhere.
Right.
moving on. Any other new business that you would like to add? If not, announcements and information.
Look, we haven't had enough about the budget. We can come to exit issues Thursday morning at 7:30, and Dr. Meyer and I will be talking about it again, hopefully with our business community, to get some of them to come out, or at least not come out and ask for the tax rate to be reduced.
That's true. Any other announcements? Then the upcoming school board meetings, I have to pay your attention for one thing. Initially, we were going to have joint session with our Board of Supervisors on Monday, the March 18th, but that turned out to be a required meeting for them to have after their first budget presentation, because you need to have another meeting a certain number of days after. So we offer our work session as a joint session, so we're going to have our meeting to discuss our budget, and they're going to receive our budget book after we, say our okay on the 19th. So tentatively, they have a month, hopefully, to look into what they want to ask us, and hopefully we will have a productive discussion, because they will know what we're asking, they will know what they have.
I think you're talking about the wrong dates.
March 19th? That's our
March.
joint meeting, yeah.
March, sorry.
Joint meeting at 6:30, dinner, and 7 o'clock
That's
the
right.
meeting. So that will,
That'll be the budget discussion. But I would, after y'all's discussion tonight, I think we ought to talk about the budget and
building
goes
discussion.
together and the
Yeah.
redistricting.
Absolutely.
Building.
Yeah.
And y'all can,
Yeah, that'd be great.
Oh, yeah.
Give us that forum.
y'all can have a direct conversation with whomever.
That's right.
I'll take that one with you.
Ms. Drake, can you update our meeting on here so it's combined? Thank you.
And at the next meeting, we need to remove the thing about approving the school board salary request. We won't approve it until we approve the budget.
Okay.
Right.
Gotcha.
yes.
Okay, so.
Yeah.
Just so I'm clear, the meeting on March the 19th will be the joint meeting.
That's correct.
And our work session.
How are we going to do a work session and have a joint
No,
meeting?
it's just going to be. It's going to
Oh,
be joint.
okay.
Work
Is
session with
our
them.
work session.
Yeah, work session with them.
Okay. Had me nervous there. I thought I was going to have to bring my bed.
And then we will add the building discussion besides the budget discussion. And we'll move the school board salary approval to when we are approving the budget
That's right.
in May. And if you're all good, now I think we're ready to get into closed session. Let's see. Our next order of business is closed session. May I have a motion to go into closed session to discuss 4 personnel matters, 1 student matter, and 1 legal matter, as authorized by Section 2.2-3711 of Code of Virginia.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are now in closed session.